Chapter 3309. In less than 10 breaths of time, Meng Yu's entire right arm was burned to ashes. The unparalleled pain and torture broke his will as he cried and begged for mercy. "Senior, please spare my life. I was wrong. I'll confess everything. Senior, please give me another chance." Fortunately, Meng Yu's divine body was sealed and he could not move. Otherwise, he would have kowtowed and begged for mercy. With a wave of his hand, Ji Tianxing kept the purple hellish fire. Meng Yu was finally released from the pain. He panted violently as cold sweat poured down his body. After a while, he recovered and calmed down a little. He told the truth. "Senior, I'm the Twin Dragon City Lord, Meng Yu. More than 1,000 years ago, Lin Xue's father, Lin Wufa, and my father, Meng Ke, were best friends. Our two families have been friends for generations. Under the threat of pain and death, Meng Yu confessed his identity, his relationship with Lin Xue, and the origin of the hatred." After he finished, Ji Tianxing frowned and asked, "Lin Wufa betrayed his master and ancestors? Lin Xue's mother, Xianxia, is the Rakshasa tribe's saint? What's going on? Tell me the truth." Meng Yu dared not hide anything. He told him everything. "There's a Dharma sect in the Cloud Yang region in the south. It's one of the top 10 sects in Cloud Yang region. Lin Wufa was a disciple of the Dharma sect. His master was an elder of the sect. I don't know what happened 2,000 years ago. He killed his master and escaped from the Dharma sect. Later, he met the Rakshasa tribe's saint, Xianxia, and somehow, a deep bond was planted between them. So much so that Xianxia betrayed the Rakshasa tribe and followed him out of Cloud Yang region, hiding in Tianbei region." Meng Yu told Ji Tianxing everything he knew. Ji Tianxing repeatedly asked a few more times. Seeing that Meng Yu really didn't know any more inside information, he finally stopped. "These things are confidential. How would a small Twin Dragons city lord like you know about them?" Meng Yu looked sad and angry as he explained, "Because Xianxia and Lin Wufa died one after another. Lin Xue also chased after Lin Shan and left the Celestial Beast Empire. However, the Dharma sect's people traced all the way to the Celestial Beast Empire and found my father, Meng Ke. The 10,000 Laws sect was vicious and merciless. They tortured my father and forced him to reveal Lin Wufa's whereabouts. When they found out that Lin Wu Fa was dead and that the Lin clan had been destroyed, the Dharma sect took their anger out on my father and beat him to the point of death. Not long after that, the Rakshasas found Double Dragon City. Compared to the 10,000 Dharma sect, Luo Xie of the Rakshasa clan is even more brutal. He actually killed my father." At this point, Meng Yu gnashed his teeth, his eyes filled with hatred. Although he left Double Dragon City in time, he thought he did it discreetly. "But after I succeeded as the city lord, after many years of investigation, I finally found out the truth. However, at that time, Luo Xie had already gained the emperor's trust and was conferred the title of imperial tutor. I'm weak and powerless. I don't have the qualifications to avenge my father." However, Luo Xie still refused to give up and wanted to track down Xuelin's whereabouts. Therefore, he returned to Double Dragon City as the national advisor and recruited me to work for him to monitor the residents of the Lin family. I couldn't refuse and could only endure the humiliation and quietly accumulate power. Only then did Ji Tianxing know that the imperial tutor of the Celestial Beast Empire was called Luo Xie. He was a key figure of the Rakshasa clan. He stared coldly at Meng Yu and asked in a low voice, "So, you ignored the friendship of the Lin clan and betrayed Xuelin without hesitation? In order to get the reward from the national advisor, you deliberately captured Xuelin and handed her over to the national advisor?" Meng Yu was silent for a moment before he said angrily, "What's wrong with me doing that? They killed my father. My father is innocent." "Ah." Ji Tianxing sneered. The one who was hunted by the 10,000 Dharma sect and the Rakshasa clan was Lin Wu Fa. Xuelin didn't know. She's innocent. Meng Yu was agitated. He shouted without hesitation, "But she's the daughter of Lin Wu Fa and Xianxia. She's not innocent." Ji Tianxing looked at him expressionlessly. His eyes were cold as he said indifferently, "If that's the case, then you can die." As his voice fell, he slowly raised his right hand and pressed it on Meng Yu's head. Meng Yu's face turned ashen. He asked in a panic, "Why? Why do you want to kill me? I've already told you everything I know. You didn't keep your word. You untrustworthy bastard." Ji Tianxing sneered. "Shui Lin is innocent, but you think she deserves to die. You plan to capture her and hand her over to the national advisor, Luo Xie. You wanted to kill her. Don't you deserve to die?" Meng Yu was stunned for a moment before he shouted, "No. She won't die. Luo Xie is from the same clan as her. I only captured her to bring her back to the Rakshasa clan. Luo Xie won't kill her." Ji Tianxing frowned and asked, "Are you sure?" "Of course." Meng Yu seemed to see the hope of survival. He quickly said, "Shui Lin is Sha Yanzi's daughter. She's very important to the Rakshasa clan. Luo Xie won't dare to kill her." Ji Tianxing thought for a moment and vaguely guessed the reason. Only then did he feel much more at ease. Therefore, he revealed a mocking sneer at Meng Yu and said, "Your mission is complete. It's time to rest." As he said that, his right palm exploded with terrifying divine power and fiercely slapped Meng Yu's head. Bam! With a muffled sound, Meng Yu's head was intact. However, the terrifying divine power seeped into his mind and shattered his godhead. Meng Yu's life was instantly cut off. His body stiffened on the spot. His eyes were wide open and he still maintained a shocked expression. He didn't expect Ji Tianxing to be so ruthless. No matter how much he begged for mercy and revealed all his secrets, he couldn't escape death. After killing Meng Yu, Ji Tianxing didn't show any emotion. His right hand rotated a few times above Meng Yu's head and took out his godhead shard. Then, Ji Tianxing waved his hand and shot out a netherworld purple flame, burning Meng Yu's divine body to ashes. He began to refine Meng Yu's godhead shard and absorb Meng Yu's soul memories to ensure that Meng Yu didn't hide any important information. Before they knew it, half a month had passed. In this half a month, Chao Qingyu drove the king-level divine ship and caught up with Imperial Advisor Luo Xie's divine ship. They flew all the way south. Along the way, the Green Jade divine ship followed behind the Imperial Advisor, maintaining a distance of a few thousand miles. The Green Jade divine ship remained invisible and restrained its aura. It wasn't discovered by the Imperial Advisor. Ji Tianxing had already refined Meng Yu's godhead shard and taken Meng Yu's soul memories. Reality proved that Meng Yu didn't know many secrets. In order to survive, he spilled everything. He didn't keep any important secrets. Ji Tianxing understood the whole story and was sure that the Imperial Advisor wouldn't kill Shui Lin. Thus, he patiently followed along. He decided to follow the Imperial Advisor into the Rakshasa territory and save Shui Lin after figuring out the situation. Chapter 33:10. On the morning of the 16th day, Imperial Advisor Luo Xie's divine ship entered the hinterland of Cloud Yang region and flew into a vast mountain range. The entire region spanned 1,000,000 miles, was filled with endless primeval forests and towering mountains. There were few people here, a paradise for all kinds of monsters and divine beasts. Danger lurked everywhere. Those who were not divine lords dared not enter this region, or they would be in danger of losing their lives. Seeing Luo Xie's divine ship gradually slowing down, Ji Tianxing guessed that they were about to arrive at the Rakshasa tribe's territory. As expected, 4 hours later, Luo Xie's divine ship flew into a canyon that was hundreds of thousands of feet deep and disappeared into the clouds. The canyon was surrounded by mountains on all sides, and all of them were lofty peaks that reached up to 3,000 feet in height and were covered with lush forests. Chao Qingyu did not hesitate as he steered the divine ship into the canyon, flying forward through the clouds. Ji Tianxing's deific consciousness detected that Luo Xie's divine ship had flown to the deepest part of the canyon and stopped in the clouds. Then, Luo Xie left the divine ship with 4 Imperial Guard commanders and 32 Imperial Guard captains. Lin Shui was still restrained by 2 Imperial Guard commanders, bound by bronze chains, looking as wretched as ever. However, after half a month of slow self-healing, the wounds on her body were close to healing and her condition was much more stable. Luo Xie kept the divine ship and began to cast a secret spell, releasing vast divine power into the depths of the canyon. Soon, a layer of hazy light screen lit up in midair. At a glance, one could tell that it was a barrier formation. Chao Qingyu also slowed down the divine ship and asked Ji Tianxing, "Young master, that group of people should be entering a secret realm. What should we do?" Ji Tianxing thought for a moment and said, "The divine ship is too big of a target and will be easily exposed. Let's keep the divine ship and follow them in to take a look." Chao Qingyu also agreed with this idea and hurriedly put away the divine warship. He and Ji Tianxing passed through the clouds, remaining invisible and concealing their auras as they flew toward Luo Xie and the others. Fortunately, the marshals and captains of the imperial army were not strong enough to notice anything amiss. Luo Xie was so focused on casting the spell to open the entrance of the barrier that he didn't notice Ji Tianxing and Chao Qingyu's approach. A quarter of an hour later, Luo Xie finished casting, and a door appeared on the five-colored light curtain. Shua! He led Wang Lin, the commanders, and the captains through the door and disappeared into the sky. Ji Tianxing and Chao Qingyu hurriedly followed. They were at the very back of the group, and they silently passed through the door and entered the alternate dimension. After a while, the door closed, and the multicolored light curtain gradually disappeared. Everyone appeared in an alternate dimension one after another. This was a magnificent paradise, with a radius of 50,000 miles. The land was extremely vast. The sun shone brightly in the azure sky, the green earth was lush with vegetation, and there were many colorful rocks scattered around. The jagged rocks were covered with colorful gems and crystals, and there were also many colorful corals. In the mountains and forests further away, there were towering ancient trees thousands of feet tall, as well as mushrooms and strange plants the size of houses. All kinds of herbs and fruit trees were full of colorful and fragrant divine fruits. There were also countless birds and beasts flying in flocks across the sky and the forest, roaming freely. Compared to the dilapidated Lin family cave abode, this paradise had more than 100 times more divine power and resources. Even Chao Qingyu's cave abode could not be compared to this. Obviously, this was the territory of the Rakshasa cave. The Grand Tutor Luo Xie led the imperial army and Lin Shui across the sky, flying toward the peak of the mountains. At the peak of the mountains thousands of miles away, many magnificent palaces and buildings could be vaguely seen, shining under the bright sun. Ji Tianxing and Chao Qingyu followed unhurriedly, hiding in the dark to monitor Luo Xie's every move. When Lin Shui's life was not in danger, Ji Tianxing chose to wait and see, to find out the truth and the cause of the matter. But if Lin Shui's life was in danger, he would decisively rescue her. Soon, Luo Xie and the imperial army landed on the highest peak of the mountain. There was a piece of flat land with a radius of 100 miles on the mountain peak, where dozens of majestic but quaint divine palaces and tall buildings were built. The style of those palaces and buildings was very similar to the barbarians of the ancient times, filled with a strange and rough aura. As soon as Luo Xie and the others landed on the square, many Rakshasa people surrounded them. The Rakshasa people's bodies and appearances were different from the ordinary Protoss. Their hair was mostly purple or dark red. Their facial features were more sunken and three-dimensional, and their pupils were purple or blue. Even their attire was mostly based on long skirts, leather boots, and veils. They were full of exotic charm. The citizens of the Rakshasa race were very curious about these foreign races and were sizing them up without blinking. A few patrolling guards recognized Luo Xie and hurriedly shouted and greeted him happily. "Third Elder, why are you back?" "Third Elder, we haven't seen each other for a few hundred years. Why did you bring foreign races back this time?" Luo Xie's face was filled with excitement and anticipation. He pointed at Lin Shui and said proudly, "I've made a great contribution this time, and I'll definitely save the fate of my race. Just wait to drink my celebratory wine. I won't waste any more time with you. Where's the clan leader? I have an important matter to discuss with the clan leader." The patrolling guards were all shocked by Luo Xie's words. They looked expectant and puzzled, sizing up Lin Shui carefully. One of them reacted quickly and hurriedly led the way for Luo Xie, leading him to a tall building in the depths of the palace. "The clan leader is not in the meeting hall." He's been busy with something in the sacred blood tower recently. Third elder, let me take you there. Luo Xie smiled proudly when he heard this. He muttered to himself, I sent a message to the clan leader half a month ago to report the situation. It seems that the clan leader trusts me a lot. He opened the sacred blood tower in advance without confirming Lin Xue's identity. I've made a great contribution this time, and the clan leader thinks even more highly of me. He'll definitely reward me handsomely. Luo Xie led the many imperial guards across the square with anticipation and flew toward the dark brown tall building not far away. It was a 3-story building that was more than 1,000 feet tall. It looked like its original form of a pagoda. However, the walls around the building were engraved with tens of thousands of Rakshasa words and symbols, which looked strange and mysterious. Normally, the sacred blood tower was closed all year round. It would only be open for a period of time every 100 years when a new Rakshasa clansman wanted to awaken their bloodline. Now, the clan leader had opened the sacred blood tower in advance. It was obviously prepared for Lin Xue. Bookhouse Reading Website. Chapter 33:11. Luo Xie escorted Lin Xue to the sacred blood tower. Many disciples of the Rakshasa clan saw them flying across the sky in a majestic manner. Soon, tens of thousands of people in dozens of palaces and residences were discussing the matter. Ji Tianxing and Chao Qingyu followed them secretly, hiding near the sacred blood tower to investigate the situation in the tower. They took the opportunity to get a general idea of the Rakshasa cave's situation. The Rakshasa cave, which was 50,000 miles wide, had abundant divine power and cultivation resources. It was a true paradise. The Rakshasa tribe had tens of thousands of people, most of whom were celestial gods and true gods. There were hundreds of lesser divine lords, all of whom were the Rakshasa cave's patrol guards. There were more than 30 middle divine lords, most of whom were deacons, instructors, and other positions. There were only 15 upper divine lords, most of whom were elders, priests, and guardians of the Rakshasa tribe. The strongest ones were also merely a few peak divine lords. There were no divine king powerhouses. However, this was to be expected. Under normal circumstances, there would not be more than 3 divine kings in any region. Once a tribe or force had a divine king expert, it would be one of the top forces in the entire region. However, with the Rakshasa tribe's current force, they could only be ranked in the top 10 in the Yunyang region, not even the top 5. At this moment, Luo Xie and the others arrived at the sacred blood tower's door. 4 Imperial Guard marshals and 32 Imperial Guard captains waited outside the door. Luo Xie personally escorted Lin Xue over the door and into the sacred blood tower. The first floor was a spacious hall, dimly lit and surrounded by many Rakshasa statues. There were already 3 Rakshasa powerhouses standing in the middle of the hall. The leader was a tall and muscular middle-aged woman, wearing a fiery red dress and a dark golden cape. She wore a 2-foot-tall crown on her head. The crown's design was strange and complicated, with gold and jade inlaid in the middle, 2 long and narrow devil horns extending from both sides, and 4 black wings extending from the back. Looking at her attire, one could tell that she was the Rakshasa tribe's leader. The 2 Rakshasa powerhouses standing behind her were tall and burly middle-aged men. Both of them were dressed in different attire. Ji Tianxing guessed that they should be the priests and guardians of the Rakshasa tribe. Luo Xie escorted Lin Xue into the hall and bowed with a smile, saying, Luo Xie greets the tribe leader, high priest, and great guardian. The tribe leader, high priest, and great guardian had long received news that Luo Xie had captured Shazi's daughter and was about to bring her back to the Rakshasa cave. At this moment, seeing Luo Xie return, the 3 of them revealed gratified smiles and nodded at him. Especially the Rakshasa clan leader, who raised his hands in the air to indicate that Luo Xie was excused. Third elder, please rise. Back then, you left your homeland and went to the foreign celestial beast kingdom. You settled down there just to find Sha Yanzi's daughter. Now, you finally fulfilled your wish and successfully brought back Sha Yanzi's daughter. You've truly worked hard and contributed greatly to our clan. However, he still maintained his humility and bowed respectfully. It is my duty to contribute to my race and give it my all. After some small talk, the Rakshasa tribe leader, high priest, and great guardian all looked at Lin Shui. "Come, let me take a good look at Sha Zi's daughter." The three of them had a scrutinizing expression on their faces as they looked at Shui Lin with a complicated gaze. There was relief and anticipation, but also hatred and resentment. It was obvious that Sha Zi's betrayal had caused great losses to the Rakshasa tribe, so they hated him to the core. Even after 1,000 years, they still couldn't let go of their hatred. After a while, the Rakshasa tribe leader nodded in satisfaction. "She's Sha Zi's daughter indeed. She looks like Sha Zi when he was young." The high priest and the great guardian also nodded in agreement and discussed for a while. "Indeed, they are 80% similar. It's just that this woman is more inexperienced and slightly immature. Her temperament is a bit different from Sha Zi's, but they'll be more similar after she's refined." Xie Luo took Lin Shui to the Rakshasa tribe leader and said, "Tribe leader, I've brought Lin Shui back in one piece. I'll leave her to you now." The Rakshasa tribe leader nodded and ordered the great guardian behind him, "Take her to the evil blood altar. We've been preparing for half a month. We're just waiting for her to come back. There's no time to lose. After sending her to the evil blood altar, start casting the spell." With that, the Rakshasa tribe leader turned to leave with the high priest and great guardian. Xie Luo froze and quickly asked, "Tribe leader, are we taking action so soon? Aren't you going to check her identity?" The Rakshasa tribe leader chuckled. "No need. The evil blood altar is the best tool for checking. As long as she's placed on the altar, we'll be able to see if she's real or not. If she doesn't inherit Sha Yanzi's bloodline, she'll be burned to ashes by the altar. If she has Sha Yanzi's saintess bloodline, she'll be able to activate her bloodline and awaken on the spot." Xie Luo finally understood and nodded. "Since that's the case, we'll definitely need manpower to control the evil blood altar. I'll go and help too." The Rakshasa tribe leader thought for a moment and nodded with a smile. "It's good that you're so considerate. Since you don't feel tired and don't need to rest, come along." With that, everyone left the hall with Lin Shui and ascended to the second floor of the sacred blood tower. The second floor was a dark space. In the icy darkness, there was a purple altar with a radius of 10,000 feet. No one knew how many precious materials were used to build this ancient altar. It was one of the Rakshasa tribe's heritage treasures. At this time, the altar was already open, shining with a dazzling purple divine light. There was a blood pool at the top of the altar. It was 100 feet wide and bottomless. It was filled with dark red blood water that was boiling and surging. The entire dark space was filled with the pungent smell of blood and filled with dark red blood light. There was a protector and 5 elders surrounding the altar, continuously casting spells. The Rakshasa tribe leader and the others came to the altar. After observing for a while and seeing that the altar was operating normally and its power was stable, he ordered the great guardian, "Send her in." The great guardian acknowledged the order and hurriedly untied the bronze chains that bound Lin Shui. He formed a spell with both hands and released dark red blood light that wrapped Lin Shui like a cocoon. Under his control, Lin Shui slowly flew to the top of the altar and sank into the boiling blood pool. Seeing that she was about to fall into the blood pool, Lin Shui was shocked and anxious. She struggled with all her might and roared angrily, "Let me go. I'm not a Rakshasa, and I don't want to be refined. I'd rather kill myself than let you have your way." Lin Shui's godhead was controlled and could not self-destruct. However, she shut off all her senses and allowed the boiling blood pool to invade her body. Soon, her body was charred black. Seeing this, the Rakshasa tribe leader frowned. Chapter 33:12. The power of the blood pool was very mysterious and eerie. Shui Lin's clothes and hair were not damaged at all. However, her body of flesh and blood was rapidly burning in the blood pool. Both her hands and feet were burned into charcoal. The Rakshasa clan leader, great guardian, and high priest all cried out in worry. They did not expect Shui Lin to be so stubborn. She was not afraid of pain and death at all. She actually sealed her senses and refused to cooperate with the blood pool. This was troublesome. If this continued, Shui Lin's body would be burned to ashes. She would die on the spot and turn into ashes. The Rakshas's plan naturally failed. All their previous efforts would be wasted. The clan leader, great guardian, and high priest were all anxious. They hurriedly scolded Shui Lin, ordering her to cooperate with the blood pool. But she turned a deaf ear. She would rather endure the burning pain. Her will was very firm. Third elder Luoxia was also very anxious. He hurriedly waved his hands and cast spells. His hands formed a seal to activate the seal in Shui Lin's godhead. Shui Lin, you'd better be smart and cooperate with the blood pool. Only then can you avoid death. Otherwise, I'll activate the seal right now and destroy your godhead. You'll die on the spot. Luoxia shouted coldly with a chilling expression. The Rakshasa clan leader, high priest, and great guardian heard this. They all frowned, finding it absurd and strange. Was the third elder mad? Or did he lose his composure in a panic and become muddle-headed? What was the use of threatening Shui Lin like this? As expected, Shui Lin, who had been silent with her eyes closed, actually opened her eyes. She looked at Luoxia with disdain and sneered. What a joke! I don't want to live anymore. Why would I be afraid of your threats? Come on. Activate the seal now and destroy my body and soul. That's great. If I die, you won't get anything. End it all. Luoxia's expression froze. He only came back to his senses now. He felt so embarrassed that he could not show his face. The seal planted in Shui Lin's godhead was his last resort. Now that Shui Lin wanted to die, he could not threaten Shui Lin and was helpless. The high priest was more decisive. He ordered the great guardian and elders to stop casting spells. At the same time, he waved his hand and released a dazzling golden light that enveloped Shui Lin in the blood pool. Shwa! The boiling blood gradually calmed down. Shui Lin was also wrapped in the golden light. She was lifted out of the blood pool and floated in the air. She was temporarily out of danger, but her body was already damaged. It was a tragic sight. More than half of his arms and legs had disappeared, and black ashes were falling down. However, she endured the pain and didn't make a single sound. The clan leader, high priest, and the others saw Shui Lin's determination and understood that they could not force this matter. Therefore, the clan leader looked at Shui Lin sternly and asked, Shui Lin, you should know that we have no ill intentions towards you and we don't want to hurt you. As long as you cooperate well, you will be able to activate your powerful bloodline through the refinement of the fiendish blood altar. At that time, your strength will multiply and you will have a higher chance of breaking through to the divine king realm. I will also confer you the title of saintess of my clan, and you will enjoy a transcendent status and treatment. Before the clan leader could finish, Shui Lin said indifferently, I've already said that I'm not from the Rakshasa clan and I don't want to be their saintess. I won't be used by you, so give up. Seeing her stubbornness, the clan leader, high priest, and the others all frowned, thinking of a countermeasure. The clan leader also said firmly, Shui Lin, you should know that I am determined to succeed in this matter. Even if you don't agree and cooperate now, I will not give up, and I will not let you go. Even if another 10 years or 100 years pass, I will still have a way to make you agree. You are destined to face reality. Hearing this, Shui Lin fell silent. After hesitating for a moment, she said in a low voice, If you want me to cooperate, that's fine, unless you tell me my mother's background and experience, as well as all related information. Also, you must guarantee that every word you say is true, without any falsehood or fabrication. Seeing that Shui Lin finally relented, the clan leader, high priest, and the others all breathed a sigh of relief. Although Shui Lin's request was a little too much. This was a turning point and a breakthrough, and they saw the hope of reconciliation. The clan leader said calmly, I am the clan leader of the Rakshasa race, with a high position and authority. Every word I say is true, without any fabrication. I don't believe you, Shui Lin said coldly, unless you swear on the spot. The clan leader frowned fiercely, his expression terrible. The high priest, protector, and the others were also furious, glaring at Shui Lin sharply. Third elder Luoxia was even more furious, shouting at Shui Lin, Don't push your luck, Lin Shui. How noble is the clan leader? How can you? However, Before Luo Xie could finish, the Rakshasa clan leader said solemnly, "I have a clear conscience and am upright. Why should I be afraid of swearing in public? Listen carefully, Shui Lin. What I am about to say to you, I swear on my Godhead and life that there is no falsehood or fabrication. If there are any lies or fabrications, may I bear the wrath of the heavens and be reduced to ashes." Since the Rakshasa clan leader had already sworn, the others could not say anything else. Shui Lin's anger subsided as she listened quietly. Silence was restored around the altar. The Rakshasa clan leader said in a serious tone, "More than 3,000 years ago, there were 4 powerful tribes in the Yunyang region. All of them had noble bloodlines that had been passed down since the ancient times. Their people were talented and filled with talents. Our Rakshasa clan is one of the 4 primordial clans, and we are one of the strongest clans. It was then that Xianxia was born. She was different from the rest of the tribe. She caused a phenomenon when she was born. When she was very young, she displayed extraordinary talent and comprehension, far more outstanding than the rest of the tribe. When she became an adult, she entered the sacred blood tower to be refined by the demonic blood altar and successfully activated her bloodline. It was then that we realized that her bloodline was the purest, even showing signs of atavism. With such a pure and flawless Rakshasa bloodline, as long as she was nurtured and taught, there was a 90% chance of her breaking through to the divine king realm. Therefore, after a discussion with the elders and priests of the tribe, we unanimously decided to confer Xianxia the title of saintess. You must know that our tribe doesn't have a saintess every generation. It usually takes thousands of years for a girl with exceptional talent to appear and be qualified to be a saintess. When she heard this, Shui Lin frowned and asked doubtfully, "What if the person with exceptional talent and pure bloodline is a man?" The Rakshasa clan leader, high priest, and great guardian were stunned for a moment before they smiled playfully. "You're overthinking this. The bloodline of the Rakshasa clan is rather unique. The bloodline inherited by the men is incomplete. Only the women can inherit the purest bloodline. Therefore, the men of our tribe have the surname Luo while the women have the right to have the surname Xia." Translator, Timothy_editor, Globeglotter. Chapter 33:13. The Rakshasa clan leader's words sounded preposterous to outsiders. The high priest was afraid that Lin Shui would not believe him, so he quickly explained. The Rakshasa tribe is different from the other tribes. Our tribe values women, and there are differences in the surnames of men and women. After all, only women can inherit the purest bloodline, the most quintessential skills, and cultivate the true form of the Rakshasa. In the tens of thousands of years since the beginning of time, there have been 12 divine kings in our tribe, but all of them were women. Moreover, these divine kings were just like Xianxia. They had displayed extraordinary talents at a young age. Before they broke through to the divine king level, they were all conferred as the tribe's saintess. After listening to the high priest's explanation, Lin Shui had a deeper understanding of this. The Rakshasa leader continued, "After Xianxia was conferred as the saintess, she received our careful guidance. We poured a lot of effort and cultivation resources into her. It is no exaggeration to say that she is the hope of our tribe's rise, and also carries our tribe's honor and pride. After 1,000 years, Xianxia grew at a shocking speed and became our tribe's youngest upper-level divine lord. However, after she reached the 7th level of the divine lord realm, the improvement of her abilities slowed down significantly. Even her comprehension and aptitude seemed to have decreased. We were very anxious about this and tried all kinds of methods, but it was to no avail. At this time, the Crimson Moon tribe took the initiative to express goodwill to our tribe, sending a diplomatic group to propose marriage. Among the 4 ancient tribes in the Yunyang region, the Crimson Moon tribe was the strongest and had the strongest foundation. The Crimson Moon tribe's young lord was also a genius that was hard to come by in 1,000 years. Not only was she extraordinary, but her talent was also outstanding. In addition, the Crimson Moon tribe's young lord, Xianxia, had a good impression of her. After many discussions, we decided to agree to the marriage between the 2 tribes. After all, the marriage between Xianxia and the Crimson Moon tribe's young lord would complement each other's bloodline, and both of them would have a higher chance of breaking through to the divine king level. Furthermore, the Crimson Moon tribe and our tribe have formed an alliance, and will help our tribe to reach a higher level. When she heard this, Lin Shui interrupted and asked, "When you made this decision, did you ask for Xianxia's opinion? With her consent?" The Rakshasa clan leader was stunned. His expression was unnatural. He nodded and said, "I admit that we made this decision out of selfishness. We didn't ask for Xianxia's opinion. However, we are doing this for the sake of the Rakshasa tribe and her. It will only benefit her." Haha. Shui Lin suddenly sneered disdainfully, "I hate people like you the most in my life. You keep saying that you are considerate of others, but in fact, you don't care about others' feelings at all. All you do is hurt others, and you don't even know it." The Rakshasa clan leader's expression turned even uglier, but he could not refute him. The high priest, however, kept a straight face and said in a serious tone, "Xianxia is our saintess. In order to raise her, we have poured countless cultivation resources and thousands of years of effort into her. For the prosperity of our race, she should make concessions and compromises. This is to repay the kindness of our race for raising and teaching her." Shui Lin's expression became even more disdainful. She scoffed, "Just because the Rakshasa raised her, they can use her as a bargaining chip and a tool to strengthen the Rakshasa tribe? If you think so, then she would rather not have your nurturing and teaching." The high priest was filled with resentment. He scolded angrily, "You are ungrateful. You have forgotten your ancestors. You are indeed the same as your mother, an ingrate carved from the same mold." Before he could finish, the Rakshasa clan leader glared at him and cut him off. The high priest could only keep his mouth shut, not saying anything more with a dark expression. The Rakshasa clan leader continued, "Back then, the Crimson Moon clan leader brought the young lord and a diplomatic group to the Rakshasa cave to discuss the marriage. We accepted the Crimson Moon clan's betrothal gift and agreed to the marriage. Both races were happy. Not long after, the news of the marriage between the two races spread throughout the Yunyang region. Xianxia also became the fiancée of the Crimson Moon clan's young lord. We valued this marriage very much. All the major races and forces in the Yunyang region expressed their envy and blessings as well. Everything went smoothly. Xianxia did not resist or refuse. However, in the short span of a decade after that, Xianxia's temperament changed drastically. She left the Rakshasa cave for a few years and somehow got to know Lin Wufa. The Rakshasa clan leader paused for a moment before he continued, filled with resentment. "Later, we found out that Lin Wufa was the abandoned disciple of the Dharma sect. He betrayed his master and ancestors, killed his master, and betrayed the sect. I don't know what methods and schemes that despicable fellow used to win Xianxia's favor. Both of them developed feelings for each other and had an ill-fated relationship. As a result, Xianxia ignored our clan's nurturing and teaching, as well as her marriage with the Crimson Moon clan's young lord. She betrayed the Rakshasa clan and left the Rakshasa cave to follow Lin Wufa." As he spoke, the Rakshasa clan leader was still filled with resentment, his anger still lingering. The high priest continued, "Xianxia betrayed our clan and went back on her marriage, leaving the Yunyang region with Lin Wufa. This could be kept a secret for a while, but the Crimson Moon clan eventually found out. When the news spread, our clan and the Crimson Moon clan became laughingstocks, mocked by the entire Yunyang region. Especially the Crimson Moon clan, they were humiliated and disgraced. The alliance between the two clans was broken, and the Crimson Moon clan became enemies with us. The Crimson Moon clan's leader and young lord personally led the clan's experts to the Rakshasa cave to demand an explanation. At that time, we had a conflict with the Crimson Moon clan. The Crimson Moon clan caused a huge ruckus in the Rakshasa cave, causing our clan to suffer a great loss. In that disaster, tens of thousands of innocent clan members were killed, countless houses, palaces, and treasure vaults were destroyed, and the number of experts was reduced by half. After that, the Crimson Moon clan used all their resources to destroy our clan's properties and forces. All in all, that conflict caused our clan to suffer a great loss. Our clan had also fallen from the second strongest force among the 4 clans to the last place, unable to recover from the setback. Among the top 10 forces of the Yunyang region, our clan had also fallen from the top 5 to the last place. Tell me, do you think Xianxia and Lin Wufa deserve to die? Lin Shui did not think much of it and sneered, "You brought this upon yourselves. If you had asked for Xianxia's opinion when you decided to let her marry the young lord of the Crimson Moon clan when you made her the saint, how could this have happened? You ignored Xianxia's thoughts and feelings and treated her as a tool for profit, then don't blame her for leaving." Of course, the high priest did not agree with this statement and was about to retort. However, the Rakshasa clan's leader gave him a look, so he could only suppress his anger and keep quiet. Lin Shui looked at the two of them and asked with a cold smile, "Back then, you forced my mother like this and caused her misfortune. Now, you want to use the same method to force me to help the Rakshasa clan?" Chapter 33:14. Faced with Lin Shui's questioning, the Rakshasa leader, the high priest, and the great guardian were not happy. But the Rakshasa leader suppressed his anger and explained patiently. After all, she was the one asking for help. Lin Shui was not even afraid of death, so she would not be threatened. She could only try to persuade Lin Shui patiently. "Lin Shui, we were indeed careless about Xianxia. But more importantly, it was because of her and Lin Wufa. Although we did not ask for her opinion, she should understand our difficulties. How could she betray our tribe? Furthermore, that Lin Wufa was a traitor who had betrayed his master and destroyed his ancestors. He used flowery words to deceive the innocent Xianxia and instigated him to betray our tribe. This led to a series of tragedies. If we are talking about sins, Lin Wufa's sins are the most serious." Lin Shui still did not believe him. She sneered, "Ha! This is just your side of the story. Who knows the truth? At least I believe that my father is not a traitor. There must be a misunderstanding." The Rakshasa leader frowned and waved his hand. "I don't want to talk about your father and the Dharma sect. This is something everyone knows. There is nothing to argue about. Let's talk about your mother. She made a huge mistake and caused our tribe to suffer a great loss. She is a sinner of our tribe. But she is dead. She can't make up for our loss. But you are still alive and have the blood of the Rakshasa tribe. As the saying goes, the son pays for the father's debt. As Xianxia's daughter, you should pay for her sins and make up for our clan's heavy losses. This is the right thing to do. You shouldn't reject it. Also, if you become the saintess of our tribe, it will only bring you benefits." The Rakshasa leader tried his best to persuade her, but Lin Shui could not take it anymore. She sneered, "You think that my mother made a huge mistake and caused the Rakshasa tribe to suffer a great loss, so you want me to replace my mother and make up for the loss? Now that things have come to this, you are still not repentant and do not realize your own mistakes? If it weren't for your selfishness and disregard for the feelings and opinions of others, how could this have happened? My mother is a living person. She has her own thoughts and feelings. She's not a tool for you to profit from, and neither am I." Pausing for a moment, she put on a disdainful look and said mockingly, "You are forcing me to be the holy maiden because you want me to marry the Red Moon young master to mend your relationship with the Red Moon clan? I've never seen such despicable people like you. The Scarlet Moon clan has caused you to become like this. Not only do you not blame them, you even pushed all the blame onto my parents." In the end, he still wanted to send a holy maiden to the Crimson Moon clan to gain their forgiveness. If that's really the case, then all of you are truly despicable to the bone. Being mocked by Shui Lin like this, the Rakshasa clan leader, high priest, great guardian, and many elders were all furious, their faces ferocious. But the angrier they were, the happier Shui Lin was. However, they couldn't do anything to Shui Lin. The Rakshasa clan leader suppressed his anger and said in a deep voice, "Lin Shui, you're underestimating the Rakshasa tribe. Even if we're weak now, there's no way we'll curry favor with the Red Moon clan. We'll forever remember the harm that the Red Moon clan has done to our tribe. In the future, we'll pay them back tenfold. But you're right about one thing. We want you to be the new holy maiden because we want to rely on a stronger force. We've found a target for you that's definitely beyond your imagination. If you can become the holy maiden and marry that big shot, it'll be the glory of your life. It'll be the blessing of 3 lifetimes. Hearing that, Wang Lin was even more enraged. She scoffed coldly, "What a joke! To me, there's no one in this world that I can pursue so lowly. The glory of my life? The blessing of 3 lifetimes? That's what you think because you're too despicable." Being scolded like that, the Rakshasa clan leader's face was as cold as ice. The high priest, great guardian, and a few elders almost went berserk. However, in order to complete the plan, the Rakshasa clan leader chose to endure. She took a deep breath and suppressed her anger. She said in a deep voice, "Lin Shui, you really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. You're too arrogant. Do you know who the fiancé that we found for you is? It's the region lord of Yunyang region. He's the most outstanding divine king in Yunyang region in the past 30,000 years. He's young and promising, handsome and powerful. He's only 8,000 years old and he's already a divine king. The entire Yunyang region is his territory. He's the most honorable overlord. If you can marry him, you'll be envied by so many people. Don't take it for granted. This is such a great blessing that others can't even ask for it in 8 lifetimes." Hearing this, Lin Shui was stunned. She did not expect the Rakshasa clan to rely on region lord Yunyang in order to revive and rise. However, there was nothing wrong with the Rakshasa clan doing so. In the entire Yunyang region, the region lord's position and ability were the highest, and his force was the strongest. If the Rakshasa clan could really rely on region lord Yunyang, they would be able to receive his support and their force would rise and grow rapidly. They would no longer be afraid of the Crimson Lunar clan. When the Rakshasa clan's force was strong enough, they could even take revenge on the Crimson Lunar clan. However, all of this had nothing to do with Lin Shui. No matter how young, handsome, or powerful region lord Yunyang was, it had nothing to do with her. Most importantly, in her heart, there was only one person who was the strongest, the most talented, and the most handsome man. And that person was someone that no young genius could compare to. Even region lord Yunyang was no exception. Thinking of this, the person's silhouette appeared in Lin Shui's mind again. White robe, black hair, handsome and powerful, wielding a sword to rule the world, carefree and at ease, his silhouette seemed to have walked out from the darkness, bringing with it endless light and warmth. He was sacred and mysterious. Lin Shui was immersed in her memories, a little absent-minded. After a long time, the Rakshasa clan leader and the high priest thought that she had acquiesced to the matter when they saw her remaining silent for a long time. The Rakshasa clan leader said with a smile, "How is it? Are you moved? You should understand now that we're doing this for your own good. You have to cooperate with us obediently and accept the demonic blood altar's refinement to activate the Rakshasa bloodline. As long as your talent is as outstanding as your mother's, we'll make you our tribe's holy maiden. Then, I'll contact region lord Yunyang and discuss the marriage with him. As long as the marriage agreement is fulfilled, you'll become the happiest and most envied woman in the region of Yunyang. How's that? Aren't you excited just thinking about it?" Lin Shui's thoughts were interrupted as she ended her memories. She looked at the Rakshasa clan leader coldly and sneered, "If you're so excited, why don't you marry region lord Yunyang yourself? I'll say it again. You want me to be the holy maiden? Impossible. I'd rather die than let your wish come true." Chapter 33:15. In the eyes of the Rakshasa leader, high priest, and the rest, Yun Sun was the most outstanding person in the world. Region leader Yunyang was already the most outstanding man in the entire Yunyang region. He was also the perfect marriage partner with the highest status and the most powerful force they could think of. Even so, Lin Shui still refused resolutely. This was completely out of everyone's expectations and made them feel troubled. The patriarch, the great priest, the great guardian, and the others exchanged glances with one another. They felt helpless and began to discuss among themselves. "What do we do now? That B***TCH is stubborn. She's determined to die. She's just as heartless and ungrateful as her mother. We've thought so much for her, we've planned so well. It's meaningless to say this now. Since the soft approach doesn't work on her, we can only use force. I agree with the leader's decision. We must use force on her. So what if she doesn't agree? Throw her into the altar and forcefully refine her. If she wants to die, then let her die. We can't spoil her. If she wants to die, we'll fulfill her wish. After a while, the leader, high priest, and the rest made up their minds. The leader stared at Lin Shui coldly and said in an icy tone, "Lin Shui, you've disappointed us by being so stubborn. Whether you're willing or not, whether you admit it or not, you're still a disciple of the Rakshasa tribe. You must obey the tribe's orders. We're doing this for your own good. If you really want to die, we won't stop you." This was the leader's ultimatum. After she finished speaking, the High Guardian and a few elders worked together to activate the altar, causing the blood pool to boil again. The high priest sent out a beam of divine light that enveloped Lin Shui as she slowly fell into the bubbling blood pool. Lin Shui's divine power and soul were still sealed, so she could not resist or avoid it. She could only sink into the blood pool bit by bit. However, she was determined. She sealed her senses and senses again, refusing to be refined by the blood pool and allowing her body to be burned into ashes. Her limbs were the first to be burned, turning as black as charcoal. The leader, high priest, and the rest stared coldly at Lin Shui, watching her sink into the blood pool bit by bit, her body turning into charcoal. They were also very hesitant in their hearts. They also hoped that Shui Lin would repent and accept the blood pool's sacrificial refining. Even though they knew that this hope was very slim, they still did not give up. Of course, if Lin Shui insisted on seeking death, they would not stop or persuade her. In short, Shui Lin's life and death were in her own hands. This time, they had truly hardened their hearts. Soon, Shui Lin stopped struggling. She fell silent and closed her eyes. She had already accepted her fate. Just as death was about to arrive, many memories flooded her mind, and a lot of messy thoughts popped up. Being able to figure out the background and experiences of my parents before I die can be considered as a form of comfort. It's a pity that I'm in jail now and can't avenge my parents. I'm going to die in the hands of the Rakshasa clan. Tianxing, oh Tianxing, I used to think that you were despicable and narcissistic. Wasn't he just handsome and talented? What's so great about that? Can't you be a little more humble? She always felt that if other girls took a few more glances at her, they would want to marry her. However, even if you have so many flaws, you're still annoying sometimes. But now that I think about it, you still have many redeeming qualities. You have many good points. I admit that you already live in my heart. Other than you, no other young talents can enter my eyes. Even if I can't express my feelings, I can only follow you and be your friend and partner. I'm also willing to stay by your side forever. You're so proud and narcissistic. You definitely won't understand my feelings. If I can live, I definitely won't deny and cover up anymore. Unfortunately, a miracle won't happen. I'm about to turn into ashes and leave this world. If I can see you one last time before I die, I won't have any regrets. All sorts of complicated thoughts flashed through Shui Lin's mind. In the end, the images in her mind stopped. It was a tall and handsome figure in a dark void. His entire body emitted a sacred golden light as he slowly walked out from the depths of the darkness. Dressed in a white robe and wielding a sword, he was free and unrestrained. His entire body emitted a noble and confident aura. On his handsome and resolute face, there was always a gentle smile. It made people feel as if they were bathed in the spring breeze. All their worries had been eliminated. Shui Lin stared at the figure in a daze. Seeing him walk closer and closer, her heart was very calm and peaceful. Her entire mind was immersed in the fantasy. She forgot the pain of her body being burned and also forgot about the impending death. She decided to immerse herself in these beautiful memories and calmly accept the arrival of death. But, at this time, a steady and powerful voice of a young man suddenly sounded in her mind. Shui Lin, are you crazy? Wake up, don't kill yourself. The voice that suddenly sounded was so familiar. The tone was somewhat anxious and contained deep concern. Shui Lin was startled. Still immersed in the beautiful memories, she stared at the figure in a daze. I really am possessed. I'm so confused by him that I'm actually hallucinating? If this is really what he said, how good would that be? At least it proves that he still cares about me. He doesn't want me to die. Unfortunately, this is just my wishful thinking. Right now, he should still be in seclusion in the divine ship. He's long gone. These thoughts flashed through Shui Lin's mind. She laughed bitterly at herself. However, that familiar voice sounded in her mind again. Shui Lin, don't be in a daze anymore. If this goes on, you'll really die. Chao Qingyu and I followed you into the demon cave. We're now hiding in the sacred blood tower. If you don't wake up, I'll have no choice but to kill and save you. This time, Shui Lin's body clearly stiffened. She was completely stunned. If the previous sentence was a hallucination, it definitely wasn't this time. Even though she was extremely shocked and couldn't believe it was real. However, reason told her that it was Ji Tianxing's voice transmission. Tianxing? Tianxing, is it really you? Shui Lin finally woke up. Opening her eyes, she turned her head and looked at the darkness around the altar. She didn't make a sound. She only shouted in her heart. After all, she didn't want the demon tribe leader and the others to see through her. Miraculously, Ji Tianxing actually heard her thoughts. Of course, it was also possible that he guessed her thoughts from her expression and reaction. Immediately after, Ji Tianxing transmitted his voice to her again. Shui Lin, although you left secretly and didn't tell me, 3 days passed. However, when the 3 days were up, Chao Qingyu told me the truth. We investigated and followed you all the way here. Don't worry. With us here, nothing will happen to you. What you need to do now is accept the blood pool's sacrificial ceremony calmly. Chapter 33:16. Hearing Ji Tianxing's voice again, Lin Shui's anxious heart immediately calmed down. Ji Tianxing had this kind of magic power. No matter how dangerous the situation was, as long as he was there, he could make people feel at ease and at ease. Lin Shui came back to her senses and became clear-headed. Ji Tianxing's words made her feel warm and at ease, and she saw the hope of survival. She didn't want to die anymore. She just wanted to live and leave the sacred blood tower as soon as possible to return to Ji Tianxing. However, she still had to listen to Ji Tianxing's words. She quickly opened her 5 senses and 6 senses, no longer letting the blood pool burn her body. She began to accept the blood pool's sacrificial refining, guiding the power of the blood pool to repair her damaged body, bones, and blood vessels. However, she still had some doubts and thought to herself, why should I accept the blood pool's sacrificial refining? Wouldn't that be fulfilling the Rakshasa's wish? Ji Tianxing's voice sounded again and he explained to her, don't worry. With me around, the Rakshasa won't get what they want. With your current talent, your potential is about to be exhausted. You can only reach the peak of the divine monarch realm at most in this life, and you can't go any further. There's no hope of breaking through to the divine king realm. Therefore, only by accepting the blood pool's sacrificial refining and activating the Rakshasa bloodline can you have hope of breaking through to the divine king realm. Only when you break through to the divine king realm can you do whatever you want and not be afraid of anyone. By then, not only can you find out the truth of what happened back then and clear your father's name, but you can also avenge your parents. Don't you want to avenge them? After they died, their tombs were destroyed and their remains turned into ashes. Don't you want to avenge such a deep blood feud? These words immediately aroused Lin Shui's anger and killing intent, and her heart was filled with hatred. She suddenly regretted and nodded, thinking to herself, yes. If I want to die, I'll be too weak and useless. I'll only make my loved ones suffer and my enemies happy. I have to become stronger, so that I can uncover the truth and avenge my parents. Tianxing, how do you know all this? Ji Tianxing explained indifferently, I captured Meng Yu, your childhood sweetheart, and forced him to confess everything. Furthermore, I killed him with my own hands to avenge you. Shui Lin was stunned for a moment. Her heart was filled with warmth. She was very touched. Tianxing, thank you. Meng Yu betrayed his friends for glory, despicable and shameless, I will definitely not let him off. I didn't expect you to help me take revenge. Thank you so much. Ji Tianxing said in a mocking tone. Hee hee, you didn't talk to me like this in the past. Why are you so gentle and polite now? Could it be that, when you decided to accept death, your heart was still thinking of me? Don't be narcissistic, damn it. Shui Lin's cheeks suddenly turned red, and she secretly spat. I hate you so much, how could I miss you? Ji Tianxing breathed a sigh of relief, as if a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. I'm relieved that you can think like that. You! Shui Lin was even more furious. She cursed in her heart. Damn you, can't you be more humble? What do you mean? Are you afraid that I'll like you and cling to you? Ji Tianxing answered honestly. Shui Lin was even more embarrassed and angry. She was so angry that she wanted to stomp her feet. Don't be so smug. You're full of flaws, arrogant, narcissistic, and arrogant. How could I like you? Ji Tianxing quickly persuaded. If you don't like me, then why are you so agitated? Calm down, the Rakshasa people have already noticed something strange. Shui Lin quickly suppressed her anger and calmed down. She looked around and saw the Rakshasa tribe leader, high priest, and the rest. They were all looking at her with their eyes wide open in surprise, their faces full of confusion. Everyone was observing her and whispering to each other. Didn't that bitch want to die? Why did she change her mind all of a sudden? Ha! Don't be fooled by her pretense of being chaste and having a strong will. Actually, people are all afraid of death. How could they accept death so calmly? That's right. No matter how strong her will is in the face of death, she'll choose to compromise. Being afraid of death is one of the reasons, but the most important reason is that she's thought it through. After all, we've planned such a beautiful future for her. How could she not be moved? That's great. Our plan can be carried out smoothly. Tisk tsk tsk? If we knew that she was so afraid of death, we wouldn't have wasted so much time talking to her. We could have just used force. The tribe leader, high priest, and great guardian were all sneering, their words full of disdain and pride. Of course, their hearts that were hanging in the air were now at ease. Everyone chose to ignore Shui Lin's strange reaction of looking around blankly and changing expression. After all, everyone knew that Shui Lin's change from seeking death to dragging out an ignoble existence must have been a huge psychological change and emotional fluctuation. Unknowingly, an hour had passed. Shui Lin accepted the blood pool's refinement calmly and cooperated fully with the operation of the malevolent blood altar. Indeed, there were very obvious effects. Her charred limbs were gradually restored to their original state. Then, the power of the blood pool seeped into her body and spread to her limbs, bones, blood vessels, and bone marrow, transforming her body rapidly. Her divine blood was also being refined and strengthened. It began to flow faster as a mysterious power surged within it. The Rakshasa tribe leader, high priest, and the others were completely relieved when they saw that. They could already tell that there was indeed tremendous potential hidden in Shui Lin's bloodline. Clearly, Shui Lin had inherited the bloodline of her mother, Xianxia, as well as the legacy of the Rakshasa race. That was absolutely great news for the Rakshasa race. Although Shui Lin started to cooperate with the blood pool's refinement, she still had to put on a show. At the very least, the Rakshasa tribe leader and the others had to brainwash her and change her mind and will to make her loyal to the Rakshasa race. The Rakshasa tribe leader looked down at Shui Lin in the blood pool with a gentle smile and said in a comforting tone, Shui Lin, I'm very gratified that you've realized your mistake and turned back. I really don't wish to see the sins your mother committed back then repeat themselves on you. Of course, we'll learn from our mistakes and won't treat you like how we treated your mother back then. As long as you successfully activate your bloodline and be our race's saint, we'll nurture you with all our might. By then, not only will your status skyrocket when you marry region leader Yunyang, the Rakshasa race will rise again as well. This way, it's not only atoning for your mother's sins, it's also your contribution to our race. The Rakshasa tribe leader tried his best to persuade Shui Lin, instilling the concept of atoning, contributing, and changing her fate. His goal was to make Wang Lin loyal to the Rakshasa race and follow their arrangements willingly. Chapter 33:17. After the Rakshasa leader was done speaking, the high priest smiled kindly and persuaded Lin Shui. Lin Shui, the demonic blood altar needs to operate for a month to continuously refine you. Only then can it fully activate your bloodline and strengthen your divine body. When your Rakshasa bloodline is fully awakened, your appearance and physique will change. You will be as beautiful as your mother when she was young. In addition, your innate talent will increase several times and your ability will have a qualitative leap. Most importantly, you will have the qualification and hope to break through to the Divine King level. However, these are only the foundation. The key deciding factor is still our nurturing. When you're crowned as a saint, not only will we invest a large amount of cultivation resources, we'll also teach you hundreds of skills, nurturing you with all we have. During this period, we'll contact region leader Yun Yang and help you set up a marriage contract. When you're outstanding and strong enough, you and region leader Yun Yang will be married. By then, you'll be the dazzling and motherly region leader's wife. You'll be the most honorable woman in the entire region of Yun Yang. One had to admit that the Rakshasa leader and the high priest's words were very persuasive. If it were any other girl, she would have been motivated to the point of boiling with excitement, filled with longing and fantasizing. However, Lin Shui's emotions were calm. Her expression and gaze were indifferent, without much emotion. Even the words of the leader and the high priest were laughable in her ears. She had long made up her mind to leave the Rakshasa cave with Ji Tianxing once the month of refining was over. She did not have a good impression of the Rakshasa tribe. If they were stopped, she would not show mercy and Ji Tianxing would go on a killing spree. Next, the great guardian and a few elders took turns to guide and educate Lin Shui. Of course, they also taught Lin Shui the method of refining with the blood pool. The leader even undid Lin Shui's seal personally, releasing her soul and divine power. She had completely regained her freedom now, without any restraint. However, she had no intention of running away. She continued to follow the leader and the high priest's guidance, cultivating with the blood pool to activate her bloodline. Seeing her attitude, the patriarch and the high priest were very satisfied. 2 days later, seeing that her condition had stabilized and the effects of the sacrificial refining were obvious, the clan leader and high priest left. Only the head protector and a few elders remained, continuing to control the operation of the fiend blood altar. Wang Lin was also silent. She focused on refining her god body and activating her bloodline power. As for Ji Tianxing and Chao Qingyu, they were still hiding in the dark in the sacred blood tower. No one had discovered them. The two of them hid in the dark space on the 3rd floor of the sacred blood tower. Both of them had concealed their auras so that no one would discover them. While Wang Lin was sacrificial refining in the blood pool, the two of them had nothing to do and observed the layout of the 3rd floor. The Saint Blood Tower was an absolute forbidden area of the Rakshasa race, and it was also a treasure land that had been passed down for more than 30,000 years. The 1st floor was the main hall. The 2nd floor was the fiend blood altar, and the 3rd floor was the treasury. Between the 2nd and 3rd levels, there was a top-notch monarch-grade divine array seal. Only the clan leader and the grand priest could open it. Hundreds of statues stood in this dark space, and most of them were women. Each statue was different, and they all represented a Rakshasa powerhouse or ancestor. There was a secret compartment under each statue's feet, and some jade slips were stored inside. Each of the jade slips recorded a top divine skill of the Rakshasa race. Some of the secret compartments under the statues only had 2 or 3 jade slips. Some of the statues had dozens of jade slips under their feet. Chao Qingyu vaguely understood something and said to Ji Tianxing telepathically, "Young master, there must be a deeper meaning to the layout of this place. These hundreds of statues are all top-notch Rakshasa powerhouses. The jade slips under their feet should be the divine arts and divine arts they created." Ji Tianxing nodded in agreement. Those statues should be the ancestors of the Rakshasa race. They are all divine king realm powerhouses, and they have created the most divine arts and divine arts. Those statues with fewer jade slips are mostly men. Not only are they weaker, but they are also more recent. Chao Qingyu thought for a while and suggested, "Young master, Ms. Lin needs to refine in the blood pool for a month. After her Rakshasa bloodline is activated, she needs to cultivate the divine arts and divine arts of the Rakshasa race to reach the divine king realm faster. But we don't have that much time. Let her stay in the Rakshasa cave and learn from the powerhouses of the Rakshasa race. What do you think?" Ji Tianxing understood what he meant and said with a smile, take it all. Whether Lin Shui needs it or not, take it all. Don't leave a single piece for the Rakshasa race." "Alright." Chao Qingyu also revealed a teasing smirk and hurriedly nodded in agreement. Then he took the jade slips himself. He opened the secret compartments under the feet of each statue. He didn't look at how many jade slips there were, or what divine arts they recorded, and put them all into his interspatial ring. In just an hour he had plundered every single jade slip at the feet of over 100 statues. He counted with his divine sense. There were more than 2,100 jade slips. In other words, there were more than 2,100 types of divine arts and divine arts. Chao Qingyu handed the interspatial ring to Ji Tianxing and said with a smile, "Young master, these 2,100 jade slips should cover all the Rakshasa race's divine arts. Even if Ms. Lin is talented, it will take her thousands of years to cultivate them all." Ji Tianxing nodded and said with a smile, "When the time comes, give them to Lin Shui and let her choose from them. She doesn't have to cultivate them all. I'm just thinking, when the Rakshasa race leader and high priest come here and find that the jade slips are gone, what will their expressions and reactions be?" "Hee." Chao Qingyu grinned and said, "They will be so angry that they will vomit blood. They will even have thoughts of dying." Ji Tianxing cast a sidelong glance at him and said teasingly, "Qingyu, I noticed that you seem to be enjoying it. I really didn't expect that an honest person like you with thick eyebrows and big eyes would actually become evil too." Chao Qingyu was stunned for a moment. Scratching his head rather awkwardly, he said, "It's all young master's teachings. I'm just following suit." Ji Tianxing was immediately speechless and rolled his eyes at him. "Forget it, you continue to keep watch. There are still more than 20 days. I can't waste time and have to enter the divine pagoda to cultivate in seclusion. If there are any abnormal situations, you can contact me with voice transmission at any time." Finished talking, Ji Tianxing took out the 9 Heavens 10 Absolute Pagoda and tunneled into the distorted space-time, going into seclusion to cultivate. He was currently peak 9th level Divine Lord and was not far from Divine King Realm. He had to make the best use of his time and cultivate diligently before he could break through to Divine King Realm as soon as possible. Chao Qingyu hurriedly put away the 9 Heavens 10 Absolute Pagoda and hid it on his body. Then he concealed his whereabouts and aura, hiding in a dark corner and continuing to monitor the situation of the evil blood altar. Chapter 33:18. In the warped space. Under the Bloodfire's sacred tree, Ji Tianxing sat cross-legged on the ground and was currently circulating his skill to cultivate. His strength realm still remained at peak Divine Lord realm. He was only a step away from Divine King realm. However, that single step was like a heavenly moat. If there was no opportunity or epiphany, it was very hard to break through. In addition, Ji Tianxing had already cultivated all kinds of cultivation methods and divine abilities to perfection. Only the heaven-punishing divine art that he created was still in its infancy, at the stage of continuous exploration and demonstration. Of course, this divine art was also the highest grade among the cultivation methods that he grasped. It was the divine art that covered the most heaven and earth great Tao. Hence, after Ji Tianxing cultivated the other cultivation methods once, he focused on cultivating the heaven-punishing divine art. Currently, the heaven-punishing divine art was only cultivated to the 2nd level. Moreover, it was only cultivated to the middle and late stages. It had yet to reach the realm of perfection. Ji Tianxing guessed that after he cultivated the 2nd level of the heaven-punishing divine art to perfection, he should be able to break through to the Divine King realm. After all, he had the experience of breaking through to the Divine King realm in his previous life. Moreover, he cultivated to peak divine king. Now that he was starting all over again, it was naturally 10 times easier than other divine kings. Sush, sush. As Ji Tianxing revolved the heaven-punishing divine art over and over again, his body was shrouded in sacred golden light. It flickered continuously from bright to dark as if it was breathing. Every time the divine art revolved, his strength would also increase a little along with it. In the warped space, time passed by very quickly. 3 days, 5 days, half a month. Following the passage of time, Ji Tianxing's strength increased steadily. His divine Dao foundation also became more and more robust. A month later, his strength had doubled. And the current him was equivalent to 20 times the strength of an ordinary peak divine lord. After all, his own strength, foundation and combat power were equivalent to 10 times of a divine lord of the same realm. Other divine lords doubling their strength became twice that of a peak divine lord. And his doubling was 20 times that of a peak divine lord. 2.5 months later, the heaven-punishing divine art cultivated to the late stage of the second level. He reached 30 times the strength of a peak divine lord. 4.5 months later, the second level of the heaven-punishing divine art was accomplished. He had 40 times the strength of a peak divine lord. To all divine lords, it was an unattainable and unimaginable realm. But for Ji Tianxing, this was still not his limit. He was still desperately cultivating and perfecting the second level of the cultivation technique. His strength was still steadily increasing. 7 months later, the second level of the heaven-punishing divine art was close to perfection. He had strengthened it by 50 times. 10 months later, Ji Tianxing's second layer of cultivation technique was perfected and supplemented. He had also cultivated it to perfection and strengthened it by 60 times. However, the further he progressed, the slower his strength would increase, and the longer the time it would take. However, he had yet to reach his limit and was still improving his strength. Of course, in order to increase the speed of his cultivation, he had tried to deduce the third level of the heaven-punishing divine skill. Unfortunately, the third level of the cultivation technique was at the God-King realm. Only by breaking through to the God-King realm would one be able to derive it and establish the foundation. Thus, Ji Tianxing patiently repeated the second level of the cultivation method. 10,000 times, 100,000 times, 1,000,000 times. His strength had also increased by 70 times, 80 times, 90 times. The situation was already very clear. His limit was 99 times of a peak divine lord. Only at that time could he rely on his heaven-defying foundation and accumulation and step into the God-King realm in one stroke. Chao Qingyu had been lurking in the sacred blood tower the whole time, keeping a close eye on the situation of the fiend blood altar. Fortunately, nothing unexpected happened in the 20 days either. The chief protector and several elders were very responsible, focusing on controlling the altar and activating Lin Xue's bloodline, not daring to slack off in the slightest. Lin Xue was also very cooperative, fully focused on cultivation from start to finish, accepting the blood pool's sacrificial refinement and strengthening. Presently, her bloodline was already successfully activated, but it was still in the stabilization and strengthening stage. Her strength also advanced by leaps and bounds, breaking through to level 9 Divine Lord realm. Furthermore, it was still improving continuously. At the same time, her outer appearance was also quietly undergoing changes. Compared to the sacred blood tower's tranquility, inside Rakshasa cave was very lively. Chao Qingyu had been secretly monitoring all along and naturally grasped Rakshasa cave's situation too. In these 20 days, to the Rakshasa clan's 10,000 clansmen, it was filled with pleasant surprises and anticipation. First, the news of third elder Luo Xie's meritorious deed of bringing back the previous saint's daughter had spread throughout the Rakshasa clan. The Rakshasa clansmen all knew that the previous saint, Xianxia, was a peerless beauty, a rare talent that only appeared once every 10,000 years. She was the clansman who had the highest hope of breaking through to the divine king realm. Unfortunately, Xianxia was deceived by villains and led astray, causing the Rakshasa clan to suffer a great loss. She had also become a sinner of the Rakshasa clan, unable to be forgiven even until death. However, Xianxia's daughter, Lin Shui, had inherited Xianxia's talent and inheritance. Even if her bloodline was not pure enough and she had only inherited 70 to 80% of it, she was still the most qualified to be the saint. Furthermore, Lin Shui was willing to return to the Rakshasa clan to be the saint despite knowing that Xianxia had committed a great sin. What did this mean? It meant that Lin Shui was sincerely remorseful and wanted to atone for Xianxia's sins, helping the Rakshasa clan to recover and rise again. Most importantly, there was an extremely important and explosive piece of news that had also spread throughout Rakshasa Cave. After a discussion between the chief, high priest, protector, and elders, they had decided to unite the new saint with the great region leader Yunyang by marriage. Who was region leader Yunyang? He was the most outstanding, powerful, and honorable divine king in this region. As long as the saint and region leader Yunyang were united by marriage, it would be a great blessing. The Rakshasa clan would be able to climb up the social ladder and become one of the most honorable forces in the region leader Yunyang. With region leader Yunyang's support, the Rakshasa clan would be able to recover quickly and return to the top 5 forces. With the help of the region leader, the saint would be able to break through to the divine king realm. Then, the Rakshasa clan's power would increase tremendously and they would become the second strongest force, second only to the domain leader's manor. Thinking of this, the tens of thousands of Rakshasa clan's people were excited, filled with anticipation and longing. Besides that, there was something else that was a secret that had not been made public and was not known to the Rakshasa clan. Just a few days ago, the Rakshasa chief had officially submitted a letter to the region leader Yunyang on behalf of the Rakshasa clan. The letter stated that the Rakshasa clan was very sincere in their request for a marriage alliance with the region leader. The current saint was pure and had outstanding talent, a beauty that was hard to come by in thousands of years. In addition, the Rakshasa clan would nurture the saint with all their might, allowing her to break through to the divine king realm and become the region leader's right-hand man. If the region leader was willing to accept the marriage alliance, the Rakshasa clan would be loyal and assist the region leader wholeheartedly. All in all, the Rakshasa clan had shown enough sincerity and their attitude was sincere and respectful. After submitting the letter, the Rakshasa chief and high priest waited for the region leader's reply in a state of anxiety and uneasiness. 8 days had passed. It was tonight that the Rakshasa chief finally received a reply from the region leader Yunyang. The region leader's answer was something no one had expected. Chapter 33:19. Late at night. In the Rakshasa tribe's Rakshasa palace, in a dimly lit study room, the Rakshasa leader sat behind a large jade table, looking out of the window in silence as she stared blankly. At her age and ability, there was not much point in cultivating anymore. She was already a pinnacle divine lord, and the various skills she had mastered had reached their peak as well. Without a great opportunity, she could never break through to the divine king realm. No matter how much she cultivated, she could not improve her ability anymore. In other words, she was close to her limit. Most of the time, she was busy managing the Rakshasa tribe's affairs. Occasionally, she would daydream and ponder about life, hoping for some epiphany or opportunity. Of course, she was definitely not trying to comprehend anything now. She looked calm on the surface, but her heart was filled with apprehension. 8 days had passed since she submitted the letter to territory leader Yunyang. She had been waiting for territory leader Yunyang's reply. Although she was eager about the marriage alliance and was confident about it, territory leader Yunyang did not give her any assurance. Without territory leader Yunyang's reply, she could not be at ease. At this moment, hurried footsteps came from the study room door. The Rakshasa leader was jolted awake. Turning to look at the door, she saw the high priest walking in quickly. Moreover, the high priest looked delighted and excited, holding a luxurious golden jade slip in his hands. The communication jade slip was not an ordinary item. It could not be refined and used by an ordinary person. Leader, territory leader Yunyang has given us an answer. This is the communication jade slip he sent. The high priestess quickly walked in front of the patriarch. She held the communication jade slip with both hands and handed it to her. "Let me have a look." The patriarch jumped to his feet and quickly reached out to take the communication jade slip. She had been waiting for this moment for a long time. Just as her hands touched the jade slip, she channeled her divine power into it without hesitation and unlocked the jade slip to read its contents. The jade slip was indeed sent by territory leader Yunyang. However, the content of his reply was something the Rakshasa leader had not expected. After she finished reading the contents of the jade slip, her body suddenly trembled, and her expression stiffened in shock. The high priest's eyes shone brightly as he stared at her expectantly. Seeing her strange expression, the high priest asked impatiently, "Leader, how is it? Has territory ruler Yunyang agreed?" The Rakshasa clan leader remained silent. His expression darkened and anger appeared in his eyes. The high priest suddenly panicked and had a bad premonition. He continued to ask, "Patriarch, what exactly did the region leader say? Did he reject us?" The Rakshasa clan leader finally snapped back to his senses. Filled with rage, he crushed the jade slip into pieces. "Preposterous! How preposterous! They've gone too far, they've gone too far." The Rakshasa clan leader was enraged as he roared with a stern voice. "This is definitely an insult to our race." "What?" The high priest was completely flustered. He asked in shock and confusion, "Clan leader, how did the region leader reply?" The Rakshasa chief took in a deep breath to calm his anger before he said in a low voice, "Territorial Lord Yunyang is too arrogant. He doesn't respect our tribe at all. He replied to me and said that he already had a Dao companion that he admired and married her as his official wife. If the Rakshasa clan insists on a marriage alliance, he can consider it, albeit reluctantly. After we've crowned the saintess, he'll come to the Rakshasa cave personally to see the saintess' appearance, potential, and talent. If the saintess catches his eye, he'll give our tribe a chance to take the saintess as his concubine. After all, he's the honorable region leader. Even if she's his concubine, her status is extraordinary." The high priest was stunned and exclaimed in disbelief, Take in a concubine? The saintess of our tribe can only be his concubine? How is this possible? We're an ancient god tribe after all. Our bloodline is honorable and our status is extraordinary. Our tribe's most outstanding saintess will definitely become a god king. How can she be his concubine?" The Rakshasa clan leader nodded and sneered. "Therefore, territory leader Yunyang is humiliating our tribe." The high priest thought about it and asked with a frown, "But this isn't right. Since when did territory leader Yunyang have a Dao companion and marry her as his official wife? He's the honorable region leader. Once he marries his official wife, it'll definitely cause a stir in the entire Yunyang region. All the empires and top forces will gather to congratulate him. Guests will definitely gather and come from all over the place. But we haven't heard anything. There's no news in the entire Yunyang region as well." The Rakshasa clan leader nodded again and said in a low voice, "That's why territory leader Yunyang is obviously lying. He doesn't care about the Rakshasa clan at all and doesn't need to show us any mercy. He can tell such a despicable lie so directly. He's going too far." The high priest's expression was dark as well. After a moment of silence, he asked, "Clan leader, what should we do then? Should this marriage continue?" The Rakshasa clan leader pursed his lips and frowned. After thinking for a long time, he nodded and said in a determined tone, "Of course it should continue. No matter how much territory leader Yunyang despises our tribe, we can only swallow our pride. The Crimson Lunar Tribe has joined forces with the other ancient tribes to suppress our tribe's forces and vow to remove us from the list. We have no other backing to rely on. Territory leader Yunyang is our only chance. No matter how humiliating it is, we can only choose to accept it. Let's be a concubine then. He's territory leader Yunyang after all." Just as he had said, even his concubines were of the highest status. With this relationship, the Crimson Lunar Tribe's suppression and encirclement against our tribe will definitely stop. At least, the Crimson Lunar Tribe won't dare offend territory leader Yunyang. The high priest nodded in agreement and said with a sigh, Given the situation, we can only swallow our pride. Anyway, territory leader Yun Yang hasn't married and hasn't seen Lin Shui. Maybe he'll change his mind when he sees Lin Shui. Besides, if Lin Shui performs well after becoming a concubine and gains the territory leader's favor, she might be promoted to be his wife. The Rakshasa clan leader calmed down and said with a slight nod, "That's right. As long as the marriage is successful, we'll have a chance and hope. Prepare to confer the title of Saintess." Right after conferring the title of Saintess, prepare to welcome territory leader Yun Yang's arrival. Your subordinate understands what to do. The high priest bowed and retreated. Soon, another 5 days had passed. Under the high priest's arrangement, the Rakshasa people decorated the venue joyfully and prepared for the ceremony of conferring the Saintess. At the same time, the Rakshasa cave was decorated with lanterns and colored banners, red and purple, in preparation for the arrival of territory leader Yun Yang. On the 26th day, Lin Shui's Rakshasa bloodline was fully activated and her condition was stable. She finally left the sacred blood tower and went to the square to participate in the ceremony of conferring the Saintess. Chapter 33:20. The square outside the Luosha Divine Palace was 50 miles wide and could hold hundreds of thousands of people. Unfortunately, the population of the Luosha race had never reached that level. Even at their peak, the population was only 40,000 to 50,000 people. At this moment, all the people in the Luosha cave were gathered in the square to watch the Saintess ceremony. In the center of the square, there was a platform that was hundreds of feet high. Several statues of the Luosha ancestors stood there, looking very solemn and sacred. After Lin Shui activated the Luosha bloodline, this was the first time she appeared in front of the public. Compared to when she first entered the Luosha cave, her appearance and figure had indeed changed. The most obvious change was that she was taller, and her figure and appearance were more enchanting. She exuded a breathtaking charm. Before, she was still petite, delicate, and cute. She even exuded a bit of a demonic aura. But now, she was even more dazzling and stunning. She unleashed her demonic and charming powers to the extreme. Under the protection of the high priest and many elders, Lin Shui stepped onto the platform. Tens of thousands of Luosha people finally saw Lin Shui's appearance. They immediately exclaimed in shock and cheered. Many of the Rakshasa men were stunned. They could not help but exclaim loudly, because Lin Shui now looked 90% like her mother, Xianxia. In the eyes of the Luosha people, it was as if the Saintess Xianxia had returned. But there were some subtle differences between Lin Shui and Xianxia. Compared to Xianxia, she was younger and unleashed her charming aura to the extreme. Without a doubt, she was even more beautiful and dazzling than Xianxia back then. The cheers and discussions lasted for a long time before dissipating. The clan leader, high priest, guardians, and elders were very satisfied with this effect. Everyone's face was filled with a long-lost gratified smile. 15 minutes later, the ceremony officially began. The clan leader and high priest first prayed a long incantation. Then the high priest led the various procedures. In short, the ceremony to confer the title of Saintess was very complicated and solemn. Lin Shui didn't want to participate in the ceremony. She didn't want to be the Saintess. Now that she had awakened the Luosha bloodline, her strength had increased several times. Her talent and potential had also improved greatly. She felt that she was qualified to reach the Immortal King realm. She only wanted to leave Rakshasa cave as soon as possible. However, Ji Tianxing never showed up, nor did he send her any instructions through voice transmission. She called out to Ji Tianxing in her heart many times, but received no response. Now, her form had changed, becoming even more dazzling and perfect. She could ignore the cheers and amazement of the tens of thousands of Rakshasas. What she wanted to see the most was Ji Tianxing's reaction when he saw her in her current state. Would they be amazed and delighted by it? Or do you feel discomfort and disgust? Shui Lin was quite nervous. Under such circumstances, she could only wait patiently. Even if she was unwilling, she had to go along with the Rakshasa clan leader's arrangements. This was because she believed that Ji Tianxing definitely hadn't left and was still in Luosha Cave. However, Ji Tianxing had his own plans. She only needed to wait for Ji Tianxing's instructions. In the distorted space, Ji Tianxing was still meditating under the blood flame sacred tree. Only 25 days had passed in the outside world, but he had been cultivating in seclusion for 3.5 years. At this time, his strength had been raised to the limit, 99 times that of a peak godlord. Previously, his body was surrounded by a sacred golden light. But now, his entire body was surrounded by divine light. Not only was there golden light, but there were also purple and white lights. Under the dazzling divine light, he looked even more sacred and solemn, and his aura was also extremely powerful. As early as a year ago, his strength had already reached its limit. In this year, he had been trying to break through the shackles of the Immortal King realm. Back then, when Kenshin was trying to break through to the Immortal King realm, he tried more than 30 times before succeeding. Kenshin was in seclusion for more than 30 years before successfully breaking through from a peak godlord to the Immortal King realm. And now, Ji Tianxing had reached the most critical juncture. He had already tried 7 times, and this was the 8th time. And this time, he was about to succeed. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, a short 5 days later. Suddenly, there was a thunderous boom in Ji Tianxing's body, as if some wall or barrier had been forcefully broken open. Without a doubt, Ji Tianxing had finally broken through the shackles and returned to the Immortal King realm. At that moment, his body shook. The 3-colored divine light around his body also underwent a drastic change, turning into 5-colored divine light. A majestic wave of divine power erupted from his body. 7-colored divine light also rushed out from his head, forming 9 7-colored divine dragons that rushed into the void. Swoosh, swoosh. The 9 divine dragons that were tens of thousands of feet long floated above the blood flame sacred tree, circling around and letting out dragon roars that shook the 9 heavens. In an instant, billions of 7-colored rays of light shone down, illuminating the entire distorted spacetime. Ji Tianxing became the most dazzling ball of light, as dazzling as a star. An incomparably vast divine power spread out from his body, splitting into billions of light pillars that landed in the distorted spacetime. Suddenly, the entire distorted spacetime was filled with specks of divine light that were filled with dense and pure divine power. Yun Yao, Ji Ku, Wu Shuang, the white dragon and the others who were cultivating in seclusion were bathed in the specks of divine light. They were instantly energized and their strength surged. Even the blood flame's sacred tree behind Ji Tianxing greedily absorbed the starlight and specks of divine power. This was the so-called, when a man achieves the Tao, even his chickens and dogs ascend to the heavens. Ji Tianxing had successfully broken through to the Immortal King realm and accumulated a terrifying amount of divine power, so a portion of it leaked out. This portion of divine power wasn't wasted. It scattered in the distorted spacetime, helping and purifying everyone, allowing them to improve by leaps and bounds. As for the blood flame's sacred tree, in the past, Ji Tianxing used to absorb the power of the sacred tree to try to reach a higher level. Now that he had successfully broken through to the Immortal King realm, he used the excess power to nourish the blood flame's sacred tree. As a result, the blood flame's sacred tree also grew rapidly, growing 3 feet taller at a speed visible to the naked eye. On the billions of branches, innumerable purple leaves and sprouts grew out. Some of the branches even bore thumb-sized divine fruits. 3 days later, the 9 divine dragons hovering above the sacred tree turned into billions of colorful specks of light and scattered in the distorted spacetime. The divine dragon's shadow dissipated. Ji Tianxing also ended his cultivation and opened his eyes. Swoosh. When he opened his eyes, 2 beams of condensed light flashed through the night like lightning, causing the distorted spacetime to fluctuate. Phew! Ji Tianxing let out a long breath and looked at his body that hadn't changed much. A gratified smile appeared on his face. After 1,100 years, I have finally returned. Immortal King Realm, long time no see. Chapter 33:21. Ji Tianxing had been waiting for this day for a long time. It had been more than 100 years since he had awakened the memories of his previous life. In the past 100 years, he had always remembered the hatred from back then. There was not a day when he did not think about revenge. Now that he had returned to the godly king realm, he finally had the hope of revenge. He had taken the first step. That was right. Even if he had returned to the godly king realm, he only saw the hope of revenge. He still did not have the right to take revenge. After all, his mortal enemies were the 5 most powerful giants of the godly world. Any one of them was an existence that had surpassed the godly king realm and ruled over a continent. He still had a long way to go. After getting up, Ji Tianxing looked around to check on everyone's cultivation. He saw that the distorted space around the bloody flame sacred tree was still filled with hundreds of millions of light spots. That was the excess divine power that had leaked out when he had broken through to the godly king realm. Yun Yao, Ji Ku, Bai Long, and the others all guessed that Ji Tianxing had broken through again. However, they also knew that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that they could not miss. Even if they were curious and wanted to end their cultivation to see what level Ji Tianxing had broken through to. However, after weighing the pros and cons, they all held back and focused on cultivating. They tried their best to absorb the divine light around them. As the rainbow-colored light spots entered their bodies one after another, the light spots entered their bodies one after another. The extremely pure and rich divine power caused their strength to increase rapidly. To everyone, this was their opportunity. With this opportunity, they would definitely be able to break through the shackles and advance by at least one level. Seeing that everyone had calmed down and made the correct decision, Ji Tianxing revealed a gratified smile. It should have been 26 days outside. I wonder if Lin Shui's Rakshasa bloodline has been successfully activated? Ji Tianxing thought for a while and quickly left the distorted space. Swoosh! In the darkness, a faint white light flashed. Ji Tianxing appeared beside Chao Qingyu. Although it was only a flash of divine power, Ji Tianxing quickly concealed his aura. But such abnormal fluctuations would still be detected by peak divine lords. However, the Rakshasa clan leader, the great priest, the great guardian and the others were not in the Saint Blood Tower. Therefore, Ji Tianxing's aura was not detected. Chao Qingyu was hiding in a dark corner, observing the situation in the square with rapt attention. He was also startled by Ji Tianxing's sudden appearance. When he saw Ji Tianxing's appearance clearly, he keenly sensed that Ji Tianxing's aura had changed greatly. After being stunned for a moment, he suddenly reacted, and his eyes widened, revealing a look of deep shock. This is the aura of a god king? Young Master Tianxing, you actually broke through to the divine king realm? Chao Qingyu was a god king, so he was no stranger to the unique aura of a god king. When he realized this, he was incomparably shocked and in disbelief. Ji Tianxing nodded slightly and didn't say much. He asked, "What's the situation on the second floor? Has Lin Shui's Rakshasa bloodline been successfully awakened?" Chao Qingyu suppressed his surprise and nodded. Miss Lin's Rakshasa bloodline has been awakened since a few days ago. Until today, when her strength, cultivation base, and bloodline have all stabilized, she left the demonic blood altar to participate in the Saintess conferring ceremony. Ji Tianxing quickly released his deific consciousness to check the situation of the demonic blood altar. Seeing that the altar was closed and there was no one around, he was relieved. Awakening the Rakshasa bloodline, she should have broken through to the 9th level of the Divine Lord realm, right? Is the Rakshasa clan so impatient? It's only the 26th day and they're already conferring Lin Shui as Saintess? Chao Qingyu quickly explained, "Young master, looking at the Rakshasa clan and the great priest's reactions, I've also eavesdropped on their conversation. It looks like Miss Lin's talent is extremely high after awakening the Rakshasa bloodline, not inferior to her mother, Sha Yanzi. Therefore, the Rakshasa clan values Miss Lin very much and plans to use her as a bargaining chip to form a marriage alliance with territory ruler Yunyang. Just a few days ago, the Rakshasa clan leader had contacted territory ruler Yunyang and invited him to the Rakshasa cave to see Miss Lin with his own eyes. The Rakshasa clan has also decorated the cave with lanterns and banners, waiting for territory ruler Yunyang's arrival. Besides, I heard that territory ruler Yunyang is very arrogant and looks down on the Rakshasa clan. He's unwilling to take Miss Lin as his official wife, only giving her the status of a concubine. Chao Qingyu could vaguely see that there was a vague and ambiguous relationship between Lin Shui and Ji Tianxing. Therefore, he had to tell Ji Tianxing the Rakshasa clan's plan and the predicament Lin Shui was about to face. Ji Tianxing was stunned for a moment before he sneered in disdain. The Rakshasa clan's bastards really can't change their ways. They harmed Xianxia back then and now they want to repeat the same mistake and harm Lin Shui. Whether it's Xianxia or Lin Shui, they're both targets to be used, tools to gain benefits. As for territory ruler Yunyang, who does he think he is? Before entering Yunyang territory, Ji Tianxing had already learned that territory ruler Yunyang was an intermediate divine king with exceptional talent. At the very least, he was stronger and more talented than the Tianbei territory ruler. However, it was useless as Yunyang did not care at all. Seeing the anger on Ji Tianxing's face, Chao Qingyu suggested, "Young master, the coronation ceremony is about to end and your plan has been achieved. We don't have to waste time. Let's save Miss Lin and we'll be done, right?" Ji Tianxing smiled mockingly and shook his head. Wouldn't it be too boring to snatch Lin Shui away so crudely? Isn't the Rakshasa clan trying to climb up the social ladder and make a comeback? Come, let's teach them a lesson. Chao Qingyu thought about it and roughly guessed what he meant. His face was filled with anticipation. In the spacious square, the coronation ceremony of the saintess was coming to an end. Under everyone's gaze and the Rakshasa clan's witness, the Rakshasa clan leader personally helped Lin Shui put on the saintess cloak and crown. The scepter that symbolized the saintess' identity and status was also passed to Lin Shui. These three items were top-notch monarch-level divine weapons, treasures that had been passed down for over 30,000 years in the Rakshasa clan. Lin Shui was a little distracted and was not interested in these three treasures. However, Ji Tianxing did not appear and she dared not act rashly. She could only accept them reluctantly. When she wore the saintess cloak, the sacred goddess crown, and the saintess scepter, she was the brightest star in the square. Thousands of Rakshasa clapped and cheered for her. The coronation ceremony was finally over. The Rakshasa clan leader went up the stage again, ready to give the closing speech. But at this moment, in the southern sky, there was a group of sacred five-colored auspicious clouds, as fast as the aurora, rushing over. A domineering man's voice also came from the sky. I've long heard that the saintess of the Rakshasa race has extraordinary talent and beauty that can cause the downfall of a city. Now that I've seen her today, she really lives up to her reputation. Chapter 33:22. Everything was going smoothly, and the saintess conferring ceremony was about to end. However, the sudden voice caused everyone in the square to be stunned. Not only the thousands of Rakshasas, but even the Rakshasa clan leader, high priest, guardians, and elders looked toward the south of the square. Countless people furrowed their brows, revealing vigilant and wary expressions. After all, the young man's voice was not from the Rakshasa clan. He must be an outsider. However, there were no outsiders in Rakshasa Cave, and they had not invited any outsiders in recently. Could it be an intruder? That was everyone's first reaction. As a result, hundreds of Rakshasa guards immediately drew their weapons and blocked the edge of the square, glaring at the five-colored auspicious cloud. Under everyone's watchful eyes, the five-colored auspicious cloud flew above the square, ignoring the hundreds of guards. The five-colored auspicious cloud stopped above the square, and everyone saw the two experts standing on the auspicious cloud. The person in front was a handsome, white-robed, black-haired human youth. His aura was sacred and majestic, and his bearing was dignified and dignified. He looked extremely mysterious, making people fearful and respectful. The other god tribe expert was tall and burly, and his face was resolute and dignified. He wore a green divine robe. His entire body was filled with powerful divine power fluctuations and thick nomological aura. All the Rakshasas present could not help but feel respectful and fearful when they saw the middle-aged man in the green robe. That was because the divine power fluctuations that the green-robed man emitted had far surpassed the God-Lord realm. It was a level that no one could touch and could only look up to. God-King realm. The Rakshasa clan leader, high priest, and guardians reacted in the next instant, and their expressions changed drastically. The few peak god-lords exchanged glances and saw the shock and worry in each other's eyes. As a result, they could not help exclaiming through voice transmissions. What's going on? Why would an outsider intrude into Rakshasa cave? That white-robed youth is very mysterious. The green-robed man is definitely a god-king expert. Since the green-robed man is a god-king, why is he standing at the back like the white-robed youth's guard? Could it be that the white-robed youth has a more honorable status and is more powerful? Most likely, the white-robed youth is definitely a god-king expert. Moreover, a god-king expert is a guard for the white-robed youth. It's obvious how terrifying the identity and status of that white-robed young man is. Two god-king experts came at the same time, and we don't even know him. What's going on? I hope they don't have any enmity towards our clan. Otherwise, Rakshasa cave will be in danger. In an instant, the Rakshasa clan leader, the high priest, and the others had a discussion and made a preliminary judgment. Towards the white-robed young man and the green-robed man, everyone was filled with vigilance and respect. As for the tens of thousands of Rakshasa clansmen, although they were ignorant, they did not notice these clues. However, they all felt tremendous pressure. Their hearts were filled with fear and uneasiness. They were filled with worry and vigilance. However, no one noticed. Saintess Lin Shui, who was standing on the high platform, froze when she saw the white-robed young man and the green-robed man. Then, a smile appeared on her face. Her bright eyes flashed with joy and excitement. Of course, no matter how happy and excited she was, she knew how to restrain herself and hide it. In the blink of an eye, she suppressed her excitement and regained her calm expression and gaze. No one could see through her. However, in her heart, she was screaming with joy. This is great. Despicable fellow, you finally appeared. I knew that you wouldn't leave me behind and would definitely come to save me. But I didn't expect you to swagger through the streets and even ride a five-colored auspicious cloud to save me. Do you want to be my unparalleled hero and make me repay you with my body? Dream on. After a moment of silence, she remembered something more important. Oh right, he said that he's long heard that the Rakshasa saintess has extraordinary talent and beauty? Is he talking about me? Is what he said true? Could it be that he doesn't find my current appearance demonic and ugly but admires and likes me? If that's the case, then I'm relieved. Lin Shui looked down at herself as she thought. She held her cheeks with both hands, looking nervous and uneasy. Even if the Rakshasa clan thought that she was as beautiful as a fairy, she would not take it to heart. She only cared about that fellow's opinion. At the same time, the Rakshasa clan leader and the high priest took the initiative to ask questions in order to ease the tense atmosphere in the square. May I know who the two of you are? Why did you barge into the Rakshasa cave? If I remember correctly, our clan hasn't invited guests from other clans recently, right? Although he was questioning the other party's identity, the Rakshasa clan leader did not forget to bow and remain respectful and courteous. After all, the Rakshasa clan could not afford to offend a godly king powerhouse, especially when the other party was two godly kings. On the five-colored auspicious cloud, the white-robed youth was in high spirits. He stood proudly and had no intention of explaining. On the other hand, the green-robed man behind him answered for his master dutifully. He said with an indifferent expression, "The Rakshasa clan indeed did not invite my master. We came uninvited. After all, the Rakshasa clan lives in a remote area. It's normal that they don't know my master." Seeing that, the Rakshasa clan leader and the high priest's hearts skipped a beat. Everyone looked at each other and nodded slightly, confirming the guess in their hearts. That was right. That green-robed man was the white-robed youth's guard and servant. Everyone was secretly shocked. What kind of honorable person would he be if a godly king was willing to be his guard? He should be at least the territorial lord of a region, right? Thinking of that, the Rakshasa clan leader, the high priest, the great guardian, and the elders became even more respectful. Please forgive our ignorance. May I ask where the two seniors are from? Do you have any relationship with our Rakshasa clan's ancestors? Why did you enter Rakshasa cave this time? The high priest bowed and asked in a respectful and clear manner. In order not to anger the two godly kings, he only said that he was entering Rakshasa cave and did not dare to mention the word trespass. The tens of thousands of Rakshasa clansmen were already frightened by the two godly kings' power and were uneasy. Now, seeing the clan leader and the high priest in such a humble manner, they understood. Everyone understood the situation. The two guests from other clans must be honorable godly kings, big shots that the Rakshasa clan could not afford to offend. As expected, the white-robed youth still did not answer. The green-robed man said proudly, "We're from the Sharp Tiger region in the south. My master is the master of Sharp Tiger region. Although Sharp Tiger region is very far from here and you must have never heard of it. However, our territorial lord does have some relationship with your ancestors. More than 15,000 years ago, there was a Rakshasa woman called Sha Yuhuan. When she was traveling the boundless heaven mainland, she passed by Sharp Tiger region. At that time, Sha Yuhuan was chased by a godly king and was severely injured. She almost died. It was our domain lord who was kind enough to save Sha Yuhuan and treat her injuries. Chapter 33-23. The expressions of the Rakshasa tribe leader and high priest changed when they heard what the green-robed man said. Everyone could not help but exclaim in their excitement. The Tiger Region Lord? He is indeed a region lord. No wonder. What? Sha Yuhuan? Oh my God! That's the 17th generation saintess of our tribe, my grandmother. Sha Yuhuan went to the Tiger region and was even saved by the region lord? No wonder the region lord knows about our tribe. He has such a history with us. The Rakshasa tribe leader and high priest were all excited. They showed gratified, friendly, and fawning smiles. After all, the two godly kings had a history with the Rakshasa tribe, which meant that they were friends and not enemies. The Sha Yuhuan that the green-robed man mentioned was indeed the 17th generation saintess of the Rakshasa tribe. Sha Yanzi was the 19th generation saintess, and Lin Shui was the 20th generation saintess. Sha Yuhuan had broken through to the godly king realm more than 16,000 years ago. The Rakshasa tribe was very powerful back then. They were the second most powerful force after the region lord. However, because of that, the region lord was wary of the Rakshasa tribe and secretly suppressed and weakened them. Sha Yuhuan was only a lower-rank godly king. Her strength was far from the region lord's then. Just staying in the Rakshasa cave and cultivating the skills left behind by the ancestors was not enough to increase her strength quickly, let alone surpass the region lord. Therefore, Sha Yuhuan decided to leave the Rakshasa cave and travel the boundless heaven continent to find opportunities and methods to increase her strength. However, it was a pity. Sha Yuhuan was still in contact with the Rakshasa cave for 400 years after she left. After 400 years, they completely lost contact. There was no news of her until now. The Rakshasa tribe tried to find her but to no avail. Too much time had passed, and the Rakshasa tribe thought that Sha Yuhuan had died. Sha Yuhuan's disappearance was a huge nightmare to the Rakshasa tribe. It was also a heavy loss. Since then, the Rakshasa tribe's power declined and gradually weakened. Sha Yuhuan's name was mentioned again, and it brought back many Rakshasa powerhouses' memories. Only then did they know that Sha Yuhuan had been to the Tiger region and had interacted with the region lord. After a series of exclamations and discussions, the high priest looked at the two god kings excitedly and asked urgently, "Respected god kings, may I ask a question? After domain lord saved Sha Yuhuan, where did she go? After that, was there still any contact between Sha Yuhuan and the domain lord? Is she still alive? And where are you?" Seeing the high priest asking a series of questions with an indifferent expression on the white-robed youth's face, the green-robed man frowned and said with some displeasure, "Are you asking a question?" The high priest was rather embarrassed. He quickly explained with a smile, "Senior, please don't be angry. I was just worried. After all, Luo Zhen is Sha Yuhuan's grandson. For the past 10,000 years, there has been no news of grandmother. We are all extremely sad. Only then did the green-robed man's expression soften significantly. With a dignified expression, he said, "After my lord saved Sha Yuhuan, he healed her injuries and allowed her to leave. As for where she went and why she disappeared, we don't know. After all, our domain lord only met her by chance. It's not appropriate for us to interfere with her private matters." The high priest's face instantly turned gloomy. His hopes were dashed. However, when Sha Yuhuan disappeared, he was not even born yet. He did not have any deep feelings for Sha Yuhuan, much less any grief. In the blink of an eye, he returned to normal and greeted the green-robed man with a smile. With his relationship with Sha Yuhuan, he had an advantage over the others. It was easier for him to get closer to them. Just as everyone was exchanging pleasantries, Saintess Lin Shui, who was ignored by everyone, had a strange expression. She was holding back her laughter painfully. Ha, ha, I'm dying of laughter. Tiger Che? Nonsense. Domain Lord Tiger Che? Even if you're making up lies, can you be more serious? Aren't you afraid of being exposed by the Rakshasa race for randomly making up a domain name? However, looking at the Rakshasa race's reaction, they definitely believed it without a doubt. They were lowly in their bones and only wanted to flatter and curry favor with the strong. No matter how ridiculous you make it up, they won't doubt it. After all, both of you are divine kings. They can't afford to offend you, so they can only suck up to you. Lin Shui cursed inwardly, finding it ridiculous. Witnessing the Rakshasa race's humility and flattery with her own eyes, she was filled with contempt and disdain. However, she calmed down quickly and noticed the abnormality. No, isn't he a peak divine lord? When did he break through to the divine king realm? Also, how do they know the name Sha Yuhuan? Even if it's a lie, how can they make it up so well? At this moment, after the high priest and the green-robed man finished exchanging pleasantries, they had gotten closer. The green-robed man also explained the purpose of his visit to everyone. It turned out that he was accompanying Domain Lord Tiger Che to travel the continent and accidentally passed by Cloud Yang region. It was only then that he remembered the Rakshasa race's existence. After many inquiries and searches, they found Rakshasa Cave and broke in easily by breaking the divine formation. They did not expect to be so lucky to meet the Rakshasa race's new saintess. They had long heard of the Rakshasa race's saintess reputation. It was a good opportunity to meet her. Knowing this, the Rakshasa leader, the high priest, and the rest were completely relieved. Not only were they not worried, but they were also secretly delighted and excited. Especially the Rakshasa leader, he was so excited that he thought to himself, God is really helping me. Not only can our race form a marriage alliance with Domain Lord Yunyang, but we can also become acquainted with Domain Lord Tiger Che. Domain Lord Tiger Che is very interested in our race. I only need to do some work and we can become friends. By then, our race will have the help of 2 domain lords. Why should we worry about not being able to rise again? At this moment, the high priest suddenly realized that the honorable domain Lord Tiger Che had been silent, but he was sizing up Saintess Lin Shui with admiration. Domain Lord Tiger Che was not only handsome, but also dignified. Even when he was sizing up Lin Shui, he did not look annoying at all. His expression and gaze were focused, revealing admiration and praise. It was definitely not a greedy or wretched gaze, but an affirmation and admiration for beautiful things. The high priest immediately realized that his chance to show off had come. Therefore, he plucked up his courage and asked, Lord Tiger Che, this is Saintess Lin Shui, whom our race has conferred today. She's the most outstanding young woman in our race. I wonder what Lord Tiger Che thinks of our saintess? Or perhaps, can you give some pointers and enlighten our saintess? The white-robed young man smiled, not hiding his admiration at all. He said solemnly, Saintess Lin Shui's appearance and bearing are rare in this world. Although she's only a 9th-level divine sovereign now, her talent is outstanding and her potential is great. She'll definitely break through to the divine king realm soon. I've wandered the world for many years, but I've never found a Dao companion that I like. Now that I've seen Saintess Lin Shui, I'm actually moved. I've decided to take her as my wife and guide and teach her with all my heart. I won't let her talent and potential down." Once he said this, the entire square fell silent. Everyone was stunned, revealing an expression of disbelief. No one had expected Domain Lord Tiger Che to amaze the world with a single brilliant feat. And after the High Priest, Chief Protector, and the rest were stunned for a moment, they immediately revealed a look of thick surprise, and also cried out in surprise in their hearts. "Haha, the surprise came too suddenly. We only saw that Domain Lord Tiger Che admires Lin Shui very much. I didn't expect that he would actually be so straightforward, proposing a marriage alliance face-to-face. Domain Lord Tiger Che marrying Lin Shui as his official wife, this is simply a heaven-sent opportunity." Chapter 33-24. For the High Priest, the Great Guardian, and the many elders, it was the most practical thing to do to curry favor with the two divine kings in front of them and Precinct Lord Tiger who was close at hand. They were pleasantly surprised by Precinct Lord Tiger's straightforward declaration and were very much in agreement and eagerness. After all, Precinct Lord Tiger's status and ability were no weaker than Precinct Lord Yunyang. Although Precinct Lord Tiger was far away from here and was not as effective as sucking up to Precinct Lord Yunyang, Yunyang was too arrogant. He did not care about the Rakshasa tribe at all and was only willing to take Lin Shui as his concubine. In contrast, Precinct Lord Tiger wanted to take Lin Shui as his wife. This was definitely more attractive and competitive. Not only were the High Priest, Guardian, and others pleasantly surprised, even the tens of thousands of Rakshasa tribesmen were stunned and shocked. When they came back to their senses, they exclaimed and applauded. Only the Rakshasa tribe leader wore a complicated expression, hesitation in her eyes. The one who had the biggest reaction and was the most excited was none other than Lin Shui. Her eyes widened in disbelief as she stared at Ji Tianxing with sparkling eyes, her heart beating several times faster. It was to the extent that the blood in her body was flowing faster and faster. She was so excited that she couldn't express it with words. At this moment, she even thought that she had heard wrongly and was hallucinating. She could not believe that those words came from Ji Tianxing's mouth. "Oh my God! Is this still him? Is this really what he's saying? He's always on guard against me and looks like he doesn't want to get close to me. He even despises me a little. But now he's saying something so mushy? And in front of tens of thousands of people? It's unbelievable. Could it be that these were his true thoughts? He already has me in his heart, but he's just unwilling to admit it? Now he's using this opportunity to express it boldly? It's so touching." Lin Shui was excited and touched. The corners of her eyes were covered with mist that was about to condense into tears. She had never been so happy in her life. However, just as she was filled with excitement and shyness, Ji Tianxing's deific consciousness voice transmission suddenly rang in her head. "Hey, can't you show a little bit of shock and excitement? I'm Precinct Lord Tiger now. I'm proposing marriage to you in front of your entire tribe. How can you suppress the excitement and joy in your heart?" Lin Shui's body stiffened as she glared at him and said telepathically, "You're never serious. Don't be so narcissistic, okay?" Although she said that, she still cooperated with Ji Tianxing and showed an appropriate expression of surprise and disbelief. While she was smiling, she was still a little worried. She sent a telepathic message to Ji Tianxing and asked carefully, "Hey, what you said just now, was it true? You will fulfill your promise, right?" Although she was very shy, she knew very well that if she missed this opportunity, there wouldn't be another one. If she didn't grasp this rare opportunity, she would regret it for the rest of her life. Ji Tianxing, on the other hand, was full of astonishment. He replied with a surprised tone, "Hey! I'm obviously acting. I'm just trying to save you, right?" Lin Shui's joyful smile froze. Her body, which was trembling with excitement, stiffened on the spot. Her excitement quickly cooled down, and she regained her composure. A strong sense of disappointment and bitterness pervaded her heart, making her feel as if all the strength in her body had been sucked out. The mist in her eyes condensed into 2 bean-sized teardrops and quietly slid down her face. "Pa, I knew it. You haven't changed. I'm the one who thinks too much." Lin Shui murmured in her heart, feeling indescribably uncomfortable. At this moment, the high priest, the great guardian, and the others were shocked by Shui Lin's reaction. Someone exclaimed, "Look, the saintess is crying. What's going on? Is the saintess so excited that she can't help crying? That must be it. After all, Precinct Lord Tiger is so straightforward." Happiness came too suddenly. The vast majority of people supported this marriage, so naturally, they were thinking in a positive direction. However, the Rakshasa clan leader frowned. After a moment of hesitation, he shouted with a dignified expression, "Silence." Instantly, countless people in the square quietened down and looked at the Rakshasa clan leader. The Rakshasa clan leader bowed to Ji Tianxing and said in a neither servile nor overbearing tone, "Precinct Lord Tiger, thank you very much for your affirmation and love of our saintess. This is our clan's honor. However, marriage is naturally a matter of mutual consent. Don't you think so?" Ji Tianxing nodded slightly and said calmly, "Of course. You can't force a melon to be sweet. I understand this principle." Hearing this, the high priest, great guardian, and the others all frowned. They had a bad feeling. That was because they had already guessed the Rakshasa clan leader's thoughts from his tone. As expected, the Rakshasa clan leader looked at Lin Shui with a dignified expression and asked in front of everyone, "Lin Shui, the Honorable Precinct Lord Tiger has come from afar to watch our saintess's ceremony. The Precinct Lord admires you very much and is willing to marry you, guide your cultivation, and help you break through to the Divine King realm. Based on the principle of fairness and willingness, I'm asking you in front of everyone now. What do you think? Don't worry, as long as you agree, I won't stop you." Although he said so on the surface, he spoke to Lin Shui through telepathy in a serious tone. "Lin Shui, you must consider this carefully. You mustn't be hasty. You're our saintess now. When you make a decision, you must consider the big picture. You must know that your marriage with Precinct Lord Yunyang is 70 to 80% certain. As for this Precinct Lord Tiger, we still don't know his identity and background. Besides, we don't know where Tiger Precinct is or how far it is from Rakshasa Cave." The Rakshasa clan leader was not hinting but reminding and warning Lin Shui. His intention was obvious. He wanted Lin Shui to reject. However, what the Rakshasa clan leader did not expect was that Lin Shui had completely ignored his telepathic persuasion. In front of everyone, Lin Shui raised her sleeve to wipe away the tears at the corner of her eyes and looked at Ji Tianxing with a smile. She said sincerely, "I'm grateful for Precinct Lord Tiger's kindness. I'm willing. Although Precinct Lord has a noble status, powerful ability, and extraordinary talent, I'm just a mediocre person. As for me, I'm just a person with mediocre aptitude. I can't even enter the Domain Lord's discerning eyes. Most of the time, I can only be despised and alienated. However, no matter what others think, no matter how Precinct Lord sees me, I want to express my truest feelings. That's right. You are the most handsome man in my heart, the most enchanting man. You have long since monopolized my heart. Other than you, I can ignore any other young talent in this world." Chapter 33-25. Lin Shui's expression, eyes, and tone all revealed sincerity and truth. Her tone was extremely infectious, causing countless people to feel deeply moved. However, many people felt puzzled and began to discuss in low voices. What is the Holy Maiden saying? Why does it feel weird? Although the Holy Maiden agreed to Territorial Lord Tiger Che's marriage proposal, this is a good thing for our clan. But I keep feeling that the Holy Maiden's words have a hidden meaning. It sounds very complicated, but isn't this the first time the Holy Maiden and Territorial Lord Tiger Che met? The Holy Maiden is attracted and fascinated by Territorial Lord Tiger Che the first time she met him? Is this the legendary love at first sight? Not only did the Rakshasa clan find it strange, But the Rakshasa clan leader also noticed the abnormality, sizing up Lin Shui and Ji Tianxing with a strange look. Seeing this scene, Ji Tianxing knew that the Rakshasa clan leader had already become suspicious and could not help but sigh secretly. I really shot myself in the foot. If I had known Lin Shui, that silly girl's personality, why would I have rejected her directly? Now, she foolishly confessed to me in public, making everyone hear the problem and become suspicious. Ji Tianxing knew that in this situation, it was no longer appropriate to stay for long. If he delayed any longer, Lin Shui would probably reveal more flaws. Therefore, he revealed a satisfied smile and nodded, saying, "Very good. Since the Holy Maiden and I are in love, what are we waiting for? Come to me, let me take a good look at you." Saying that, he extended his right palm to Lin Shui, calling her forward. Lin Shui did not hesitate and left the high platform without any shame, flying toward Ji Tianxing. Swoosh! In the blink of an eye, Lin Shui flew onto the five-colored auspicious cloud and landed beside Ji Tianxing. Ji Tianxing pretended to size her up a few times and revealed an even more satisfied smile, saying, "Rakshasa clan leader, I am very satisfied with the Holy Maiden, this marriage is settled. Now, I will take the Holy Maiden out of Rakshasa cave and go out to play for a few days. We can get to know each other and also improve our relationship. In 3 days at most, I will prepare the betrothal gifts and come to Rakshasa cave to propose marriage." After saying that, the rainbow auspicious cloud turned around and left the square, flying towards the exit of Rakshasa cave. Seeing that Ji Tianxing was about to take Shui Lin away, the Rakshasa tribe leader and the high priest finally regained their senses. The Rakshasa clan leader's expression changed immediately. He raised his hand and shouted, "Hold on." As he shouted, he personally led the high priest, the great protector, and several elders to stop the five-colored auspicious clouds. "Region Lord Hu Che, even if you want to marry the Holy Maiden, you can't take her away now. Aren't you being too impatient? This is also against the rules. It doesn't matter to my clan, but you are the honorable region lord. How can you be so careless with your marriage? Why don't you stay in Rakshasa cave for a few days and let us treat you well? It can also improve the relationship between you and the Holy Maiden." Without waiting for Ji Tianxing to reply, Chao Qingyu's face turned cold as he shouted coldly, "How dare you? Since the Rakshasa clan doesn't care, why are you stopping them? Our region lord is so honorable. It's the Rakshasa clan's honor that he likes the Holy Maiden of the Rakshasa clan and is willing to marry her. Rakshasa tribe leader, don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit." The threat in these few sentences was already very heavy. Moreover, Chao Qingyu even released the powerful suppression of a godly king powerhouse, enveloping the entire square. Instantly, tens of thousands of Rakshasa clansmen were suppressed until their backs bent, and they were filled with fear and trepidation. Even the Rakshasa tribe leader, the high priest and the great protector, and the other peak godly lords were trembling slightly. They were terrified and uneasy. Even so, the Rakshasa tribe leader still straightened his neck and said very stubbornly, "Region Lord Hu Che, the Rakshasa clan respects you as the region lord and is very polite and respectful to you. However, there are rules to everything. I hope you can understand. If I let you take the Holy Maiden away so carelessly today, it will bring shame to the Rakshasa clan and our ancestors. Your Excellency, please let the Holy Maiden stay. We will discuss this carefully. Otherwise, for the glory and dignity of our clan, we will not let you leave just like that even if we have to risk our lives." After saying that, her entire body surged with divine power, and she gripped the scepter tightly with both hands. After being stunned for a moment, the high priest, the great protector, the many elders, and the deacons also drew their swords and kenshin weapons. Even the hundreds of guards drew their weapons and surrounded the five-colored auspicious cloud. Although the Rakshasa tribe leader had acted very humbly earlier, she was very calm and decisive. But on this important matter, she was very calm and decisive. Her attitude was also very firm. In an instant, the atmosphere in the square became very tense. Ji Tianxing immediately frowned and sneered with anger. How dare you be so arrogant, little Rakshasa clan? Have I been too kind to you? Since you are so reckless, I will have to teach you a lesson so that you will know the difference between superior and inferior. Lin Shui also looked very worried. She quickly reached out to grab Ji Tianxing's sleeve and persuaded, "Your Excellency, please calm down." She looked at the Rakshasa clan leader and persuaded, "Clan leader, you said you would support my decision and would not stop me. Why are you going back on your words now?" I fell in love with precinct leader Hu Che at first sight. He is just taking me to play for a few days. Why do you have to make such a big fuss? Don't you think about the consequences of being impulsive for the sake of the tens of thousands of people? As expected, the high priest, the great protector, and the elders all hesitated. Only the Rakshasa clan leader's expression did not change. His attitude was still firm, and he had no intention of backing down. Seeing this, Chao Qingyu took 2 steps forward and said, "My lord, since these guys are so stubborn, I will teach them a lesson for you. I can deal with these ants alone. Why do you have to do it yourself?" After saying that, Chao Qingyu raised his palms and waved his wide sleeves, shooting out a golden divine light that covered the sky. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Suddenly, the golden light turned into thousands of giant blades and slashed at the Rakshasa clan leader and the others. Those light blades were only targeting the divine emperors on the square and not the tens of thousands of Rakshasa people. But the golden light blades covered the entire square. If the Rakshasa people did not run away, they would be crushed. The square was instantly in chaos. Countless Rakshasa people ran in all directions and screamed in panic. "Everyone, let's go and stop them," the Rakshasa clan leader shouted angrily. He waved his scepter and went against the golden light blades. The high priest, the great protector, and the others immediately followed and resisted with all their might. In the next moment, a deafening sound exploded in the sky. Boom! The thunderous sound shook the sky and the square. The surging 5-colored divine light instantly engulfed an area of 100 miles, drowning the entire square. Under the divine light, countless Rakshasa guards, deacons, and elders vomited blood and fell to the ground, screaming. Even the Rakshasa clan leader, the high priest, and the great guardian, who were the most powerful among them, were beaten to a pulp as they crashed onto the ruined square. In addition, hundreds of Rakshasa people who could not escape in time were killed by the divine light. Chapter 33-26. Chao Qingyu only made one move and the entire Rakshasa cave was in chaos. The divine light and dust that blotted out the sky lasted for a long time before dissipating. Many of the Rakshasa guards and deacons were either lightly or heavily injured. Their bodies were covered in blood. Even a few elders and protectors were injured by Chao Qingyu. Only the Rakshasa clan leader, the high priest, and the great guardian were the strongest. They were only slightly injured and did not suffer any serious injuries. However, the scene of hundreds of Rakshasa clansmen being affected and dying on the spot shocked everyone. The tens of thousands of Rakshasa clansmen were scared out of their wits and fled into the distance in a panic. It was a mess. When they saw that the Rakshasa clan leader, the high priest, and the others were filled with shock and fear. They knew long ago that once a godly king expert attacked, the world would be destroyed. However, they only knew how terrifying a godly king expert was after experiencing it personally. They could sense that Chao Qingyu did not use his full strength and merely made a casual move. In the end, no one in the entire Rakshasa race could stop him and all the experts were injured. There was no doubt. Once Chao Qingyu was angered and attacked with his full strength, the casualties of the Rakshasa race would be 10 times worse. Furthermore, there was the even more terrifying and mysterious domain Lord Tiger who was watching coldly from the sidelines. If he attacked as well, Rakshasa Cave would be destroyed without a doubt. Everyone present today, every single one of them, would die here. At that thought, the Rakshasa clan leader felt a chill run down her spine and calmed down. The high priest, the grand guardian, and the others hurriedly persuaded her to stop being stubborn. In the skies hundreds of kilometers away, above the rainbow auspicious cloud, Chao Qingyu looked down at everyone and hollered coldly, "I only used 30% of my strength. Take it as a small lesson for all of you. If you offend my lord again, I'll let you know that when a godly king is angry, blood will flow like a river. After saying that, the rainbow auspicious cloud turned around and flew towards the exit of Rakshasa Cave. The Rakshasa clan leader looked at the backs of Ji Tianxing and the other two as they left. Her eyes were filled with hatred and she felt extremely humiliated. However, the lesson just now made her smarter. No matter how angry and aggrieved she was, she didn't dare to do it again. The high priest hurriedly asked, "Patriarch, what should we do now?" Before the clan leader could reply, the great guardian said helplessly, "What else can we do? They've already warned us. If we still try to stop them, wouldn't we be courting death?" Several elders also nodded in agreement. Their tone was very helpless as they discussed. The difference between us and the God Kings is too great. If we continue to fight, we'll just be asking for humiliation. Sigh. Originally, we could have gotten married peacefully and happily, but I didn't expect. Now that things have turned out this way, I really don't know how to end this. Do you think Domain Lord Hu Che will keep his promise and come back in 3 days? It should have been in the past, but not now. Just as the crowd was discussing, the Rakshasa clan leader shouted sternly, "We can't let it go just like that. It's not too late to salvage the situation." After saying that, she flew up into the sky as fast as lightning and chased after the 5-colored auspicious cloud. The high priest, great guardian, and the rest were afraid that she would be impulsive again and hurriedly followed. A moment later, everyone caught up to the 5-colored auspicious cloud at the exit of Rakshasa Cave. The Rakshasa clan leader shouted loudly, "Wait! Domain Lord Hu Che, please wait!" The 5-colored auspicious cloud indeed stopped. Ji Tianxing, Chao Qingyu, and Lin Shui all turned to look at the Rakshasa clan leader. Chao Qingyu raised his eyebrows and said in a deep voice, "What? Wasn't the lesson just now enough?" The Rakshasa clan leader hurriedly waved her hand and explained, "Senior, you've misunderstood. Just now, I was muddle-headed and contradicted the Domain Lord. At this moment, I just want to apologize to the Domain Lord. I hope that the Domain Lord can be magnanimous and forgive my recklessness and impulsiveness. Also, our clan is extremely sincere and is willing to marry the Domain Lord. Domain Lord and Saintess, please enjoy yourselves. I'll prepare the corresponding matters within 3 days. When the time comes, please come back on time so that we can discuss the specific process of the marriage." Clearly, the Rakshasa clan leader was also afraid that Ji Tianxing would run away with Lin Shui and never come back. But she could not stop them, so she could only beat around the bush and hint Ji Tianxing to keep his promise. To this, Ji Tianxing, Chao Qingyu, and Lin Shui were all secretly laughing. But the 3 of them did not move. Chao Qingyu also said with a cold face, "Rakshasa clan leader, please concentrate on the preparations. My lord will never break his promise." After receiving Chao Qingyu's reply, the Rakshasa clan leader was slightly relieved. She squeezed out a smile and led the high priest, the great guardian, and the others to respectfully send Ji Tianxing and the others off. Swoosh! The 5-colored auspicious cloud flew to the sky above a 1,000-feet-tall altar and stopped. This altar was the entrance to Rakshasa Cave. Chao Qingyu was about to cast a spell to activate the altar's array. But at this moment, the altar shook violently and flashed with 5-colored divine light. Rumble! With a series of muffled sounds, a light screen quickly appeared above the altar, forming a dilapidated light door. Then, under the watchful eyes of the crowd, balls of divine light emerged from the door of light one after another. Swoosh! 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 In just 10 breaths, more than 300 balls of divine light passed through the light door and entered Rakshasa Cave. When those divine lights dissipated, everyone saw more than 350 God Clan experts in a formation in the sky. These more than 300 God Clan experts were basically all God Lords. The weakest ones were also 2nd or 3rd stage realm lower divine lords. There were more than 70 middle-level God Lords and more than 20 upper-level God Lords. As for peak God Lords, there were 6. Moreover, their appearances were completely different from the Rakshasa clan. They were all more than 10 feet tall and skinny. They wore silver armor and had a head full of silver hair. Even the wings on their backs were pure silver and shone with a metallic luster. Seeing this group of uninvited guests who suddenly barged into Rakshasa cave, Ji Tianxing and Chao Qingyu frowned. However, the Rakshasa clan leader and high priest's expressions changed drastically as they cried out in shock. "It's the Scarlet Moon clan. Damn it! Those bastards from the Scarlet Moon clan actually barged into Rakshasa cave." That's the clan leader of the Scarlet Moon clan, Scarlet Shadow Tianyu. And the Scarlet Moon clan's young lord, Scarlet Shadow. Damn it! The Scarlet Moon clan leader and young lord are both here, and they even brought all the experts. Those bastards from the Scarlet Moon clan, what are they trying to do? Following the cries of shock, the Rakshasa clan people tensed up as though they were facing a great enemy. And at this moment, among the Scarlet Moon clan crowd, there was a burst of vicissitude and majestic laughter. "Ha! The Rakshasa clan and my clan are in-laws. Why didn't you inform me about such a grand and solemn event like conferring a saintess? Rakshasa clan leader, are you looking down on me or the Scarlet Moon clan?" Chapter 33-27. Today's coronation ceremony was really full of twists and turns. Regent Lord Tiger Che had not left yet, and a large number of powerhouses from the Crimson Moon clan had arrived. The person who spoke was the clan leader of the Crimson Moon clan, Crimson Shadow Heavenly Jiao. He wore a dark silver battle robe with a fiery red cape on his shoulders. His silver hair fluttered in the wind. His thin and tall body was like a javelin that pierced the heavens, emitting a sharp aura. His resolute face was full of vicissitudes of life, and there was also a hideous scar. He stood at the front of the Crimson Moon clan's team, looking at the Rakshasa clan leader, the high priest, and the rest with a cold smile. Behind Crimson Shadow Heavenly Jiao was a young man who looked a little similar to him and had an arrogant expression. This person wore a silver robe and a sapphire blue cape. His silver hair was tied into a ponytail, looking very carefree and unruly. He was the young master of the Crimson Moon clan, lifeless Crimson Shadow. At this time, his gaze swept across the Rakshasa clan leader and the rest, then fell on the five-colored auspicious cloud, sizing up Ji Tianxing, Lin Shui, and the other two. The three groups of people stopped in the sky. The five-colored auspicious cloud was sandwiched in the middle, unable to advance or retreat. The atmosphere was a little strange. However, Ji Tianxing, Chao Qingyu, and Lin Shui looked very calm. Even if there were as many as 300 powerhouses from the Crimson Moon clan, they were not worried at all. Anyway, the Crimson Moon clan was not targeting them. The Rakshasa clan leader quickly calmed down and glared at Crimson Shadow Heavenly Jiao and the rest. He asked in a deep voice, "Crimson Shadow Heavenly Jiao, what is the meaning of this? What are you trying to do?" Seeing the Rakshasa clan's vigilant look, Crimson Shadow Heavenly Jiao chuckled and said, "Sister, don't be so nervous. I have no ill intentions. I just heard that the Rakshasa clan is going to confer a new saintess, so I rushed over to watch the ceremony. What? Our two clans have been friends for generations. Can't I even watch the ceremony?" The Rakshasa clan leader did not speak. His expression was gloomy as he glared at the high priest and the great guardian. He asked in a deep voice, "Who leaked the news of the saintess? How did the Crimson Moon clan? You must investigate this matter thoroughly. No matter who leaked the news, they must be severely punished." The high priest, the great guardian, and the others nodded repeatedly, revealing a look of hatred for a common enemy. Chief Protector angrily glared at Crimson Shadow Sky 9 and shouted angrily, "Crimson Shadow Sky 9, you old bastard, stop pretending. Conferring the title of saintess is our Rakshasa race's matter. What does it have to do with your Red Moon race?" "If this new saintess marries me, she can only be my concubine. But it can't be helped. After all, the Rakshasa race owes me a saintess. You have to atone for your sins." Hearing this, the Rakshasa clan leader and high priest were so angry that they started laughing. "Pa, lifeless Crimson Shadow, it's been more than 2,000 years and you are still as shameless as ever. Lifeless Crimson Shadow, you are too arrogant and conceited. With that face of yours, do you think you are qualified to marry our saintess? Dream on. Lifeless Crimson Shadow, if it weren't for Crimson Shadow Sky 9 protecting you, how could a good-for-nothing, ignorant piece of trash like you be able to live freely until now? The mockery and laughter of the crowd deeply irritated Lifeless Crimson Shadow. His face turned darker and the veins on his forehead started to bulge. What the third elder Wuxia said especially made his face contort in anger. He clenched his fists so tightly that his knuckles cracked. The asterisk starred, "How dare you talk to me like that? You have a death wish." Lifeless Crimson Shadow roared as he raised both of his fists and blasted out 2 balls of blazing divine flame toward Wuxia. Wuxia and the elders beside him were shocked. They joined forces to cast spells to block the attack. Bam! With a muffled explosion, the barrier of light created by the elders blocked the 2 balls of flames and pulverized them. Lifeless Crimson Shadow's attack was neutralized just like that. Wuxia and the other elders laughed even more contemptuously. They mocked in a mocking tone, "You dare to make a move against me with just this little bit of strength? A good-for-nothing piece of trash like you wants to marry our saintess? Are you even worthy? Our saintess already has someone in her heart. Lifeless Crimson Shadow, you are asking for humiliation. Get out of Rakshasa Cave now, or you will have to face the consequences today." Chapter 33-28. For the past 2,000 years, the Crimson Lunar Tribe had always looked down on the Rakshasa tribe. Especially Lifeless Crimson Shadow, who despised the Rakshasa tribe and did not take them seriously at all. Now, the elders of the Rakshasa tribe dared to mock and insult him in front of everyone, even calling him a good-for-nothing. He flew into a rage, his blood boiling as murderous intent surged within him. "You bunch of lowly old things, how dare you insult this young lord? Who gave you the courage? Are you tired of living?" As he cursed, Lifeless Crimson Shadow pulled out his divine weapon and was about to attack Wuxia and the rest. He was enraged and wanted to tear Wuxia and the rest into pieces. However, Crimson Shadow Tianku raised his arm and stopped him. "Lifeless, don't be rash." Lifeless Crimson Shadow was very respectful to his father and dared not disobey him. He could only suppress his anger. Crimson Shadow Tianku's expression was dark as he stared at the Rakshasa tribe leader and sneered. "Ha! The Rakshasa tribe who used to be so lowly, wagging their tails and begging for mercy have become so arrogant, daring to challenge the Crimson Lunar tribe. It looks like the Rakshasa tribe has used the newly conferred saintess to find a new backer?" The Rakshasa tribe leader, the high priest, the great guardian, and the rest were silent, tacitly agreeing to this. It was not honorable and would be mocked by the Crimson Lunar tribe. However, the current situation was such that the Rakshasa tribe's forces were weak and could not stop the Crimson Lunar tribe's invasion. Other than relying on external forces, the Rakshasa tribe had no other choice. Crimson Shadow Tianku saw that they had tacitly agreed and turned to look at the 5-colored auspicious cloud, his gaze landing on Ji Tianxing. After sizing him up, he sneered in disdain. "Ah, the Rakshasa tribe is really regressing, to have fallen to such a state. There are a few top forces in the Yunyang region and the Rakshasa tribe can't even get close to any of them. They actually found an unknown foreign race kid?" Lifeless Crimson Shadow was also sizing up Ji Tianxing and Chao Qinyu. With his head held high, he sneered disdainfully and said, "Kid, you sure are miserable. When he went out, he didn't even have a guard of honor or guards. He only had a follower? I really don't know if you're lucky or if the Rakshasa people are blind to actually give their saintess to you. Hand over the holy maiden obediently and kowtow 3 times to this young master. Then, this young master will spare your life." Just now, Wuxia and the others had mocked and insulted Lifeless Crimson Shadow. At this moment, he had to mock Ji Tianxing to his heart's content in order to humiliate the Rakshasa tribe. It was a pity. Crimson Shadow Sky 9 and his son had found the wrong person. Chao Qingyu narrowed his eyes, his expression and gaze turning cold. Looking down at Qing Tian and his sons, he said with a deep and dignified tone, "All members of the Red Moon clan, including you and your sons, kneel down and kowtow to our master. You only have 3 breaths of time. If you miss this opportunity, you will have to bear the consequences." A vigorous and powerful voice reverberated in the sky, shaking everyone's eardrums. The Rakshasa tribe leader, the high priest, and the others were filled with excitement and anticipation, waiting to watch a good show. They knew Chao Qingyu's means the best. They were waiting to see the Red Moon clan run away in embarrassment. However, Qing Tian and his sons and the over 300 members of the Red Moon clan were stunned. After being stunned for a moment, they regained their senses and roared with laughter. "Ha, this is ridiculous. Did I hear it wrongly? Where did this reckless thing come from? How dare he ask us to kneel and kowtow? Crazy! That guy must be crazy. It looks like they're most likely not from Yunyang region. They don't even know the name of the Red Moon clan. I didn't expect the Rakshasa tribe to find such an idiot for a marriage alliance. Was his brain kicked by a pig?" Qing Tian and his sons, as well as many Red Moon clan experts, laughed and discussed mockingly. Chao Qingyu's expression did not change as he began the countdown. 3. Seeing this, the members of the Red Moon clan laughed even more crazily. "Ha, is that guy a fool? Did he really take it seriously? To pretend to be strong, he forced himself to this point. How admirable! Stop putting on an act. If you have the ability, come and hit me." Many people laughed and pointed at Ji Tianxing and Chao Qingyu. They laughed until tears came out. At the same time, Chao Qingyu raised his palms expressionlessly and formed a sword seal with his 10 fingers. He activated his mighty divine power and released a 5-colored sword light that covered the sky. At that moment, the mighty divine power burst out with a terrifying aura that could suppress and destroy everything, covering 1,000 miles. An extremely sacred and unstoppable invisible pressure that belonged to a divine king expert enveloped all the members of the Red Moon clan. Crimson Shadow Sky 9 and the other peak divine lords' faces suddenly changed as they widened their eyes in shock. The bodies of the 300 Red Moon clan experts stiffened and their expressions froze. Their laughter stopped abruptly. Even a fool would know that the ordinary-looking man in the green robe had terrifying strength. Moreover, he was definitely not a divine lord. Could he be a divine king? Thinking about this, the 300-plus powerhouses were filled with shock. They were scared out of their wits. The same thought appeared in their minds at the same time. That's right. Facing a real divine king expert, they had no thoughts of resisting and could only run. However, more than 2,000 enormous 5-colored sword beams poured down like a torrential downpour, sealing off the entire area. It was too late for the Red Moon clan experts to run away. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Bang, 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 bang. Rumble, rumble, rumble. In the next moment, the sword rain poured down and drowned the figures of the Red Moon clan members. Muffled booms and deafening explosions also exploded in the sky, shaking the heavens. During this time, there were countless screams and wails of the Red Moon clan experts. It was chaos. The 5-colored divine light shone and covered everything. The people of the Luosha race retreated far away and looked at the situation in the divine light. They were eager to see what would happen to the Red Moon clan. After a while, the 5-colored divine light that covered the sky and the sun disappeared. The scene became clear again and everyone saw the situation on the battlefield. They saw that the mountains and the earth within a 1,000-mile radius had become ruins and deep pits. The 5-colored auspicious cloud was still floating in the sky and Ji Tianxing and the other 2 were not hurt at all. On the other hand, the 300 over-experts of the Crimson Moon clan were in a sorry state. At least 40 middle-level and low-level divine lords were smashed into smithereens on the spot by the sword light. Even their godheads were destroyed. The 310 Sir Gods who were lucky enough to survive were all either lightly or heavily injured. The lower and middle divine lords were in the worst state. Their bodies were covered in blood and many of them had broken limbs. Only Qing Tian and his sons and a few peak divine lords were injured the lightest, but they were also in a terrible state. Chapter 3329. Cough, cough. Supported by two elders of the Crimson Moon tribe, lifeless Jing coughed violently as blood flowed out of his nose and mouth. His hair was disheveled, his face covered in blood, and there were large bloody holes on his chest and back. His injuries were horrifying. "Father, that guy is too terrifying. We are no match for him." Lifeless Jing was almost scared out of his wits. His voice trembled as he shouted anxiously. Crimson Shadow Sky 9 and the Crimson Moon clansmen were filled with shock and fear. They still hadn't recovered from the shock. Everyone had no time to heal their injuries as they forced themselves to endure their injuries. They held onto their swords and sabers as they faced the five-colored auspicious clouds in a defensive posture. "Shut up. Stop being so noisy." Crimson Shadow Sky 9 could not help but shout angrily when he saw lifeless Jing being so disgraceful. The other party's strength was beyond his expectations. However, he still had the backbone and dignity of a powerhouse. He was unwilling to be humiliated in front of the Rakshasa tribe. He looked at Chao Qingyu solemnly and said angrily, "So you are a divine king realm powerhouse. No wonder you are so arrogant. However, don't forget that this is the Yunyang region, not your territory. Although the Crimson Moon tribe is no match for you, we are not afraid of you. This seat will remember this debt." Crimson Shadow Sky 9 then looked at the Rakshasa tribe leader and sneered, "Well done. You have found a divine king from another region to be your backer. No wonder you are so arrogant. However, you will not be happy for long. Let's wait and see." After saying these words, Crimson Shadow Sky 9 was about to leave the Rakshasa cave with the Crimson Moon tribe. The Rakshasa tribe leader and the high priest rarely saw Crimson Shadow Sky 9 being humiliated. Now, seeing the Crimson Moon tribe in such a miserable state, Crimson Shadow Sky 9 was inexplicably angry and humiliated. The people of the Rakshasa clan were excited and laughed heartily. Even the Rakshasa tribe leader's attitude changed a little. He was also more certain that Chao Qingyu had only used 30% of his strength when he attacked them. Otherwise, the Rakshasa tribe would have ended up worse than the Crimson Moon tribe. Seeing the Crimson Moon tribe run away, the storm was about to end. However, a cold and dignified voice suddenly sounded in the sky. "Did I allow you to leave?" As soon as these words were spoken, the entire place fell silent. Countless people raised their heads and looked at the colorful clouds in the sky. Their eyes were focused on Jitianxing. Crimson Shadow Sky 9 frowned and asked with a gloomy expression, "What do you want to do?" Jitianxing looked down at him indifferently and said in an indifferent tone, "No one has ever come out unscathed after humiliating me. Both of you, father and son, leave behind a pair of arms each. Then, kneel down and kowtow to apologize before you can leave." As soon as these words were spoken, the Red Moon clansmen widened their eyes in shock. Their faces were filled with grief, anger, and humiliation. The Rakshasas, on the other hand, were inexplicably excited. They could not help but wave their fists and cheer. They were filled with anticipation as they looked at Crimson Shadow Sky 9 with schadenfreude, mocking him without restraint. Crimson Shadow Sky 9, to think that you would have such a day. Do you know who this young master is? The famous Region Lord Tiger Cleaver. This Region Lord is the future husband of our tribe's saint. How dare you be so presumptuous toward the Region Lord? You're asking for humiliation. Crimson Shadow Sky 9, what are you still standing there for? Cut off your son's arms and kneel down to the Region Lord to apologize. You reap what you sow. If it weren't for Crimson Shadow being too arrogant and brainless, how could he have ended up like this? Hearing the crowd's mockery, Crimson Shadow Sky 9 finally understood Jitianxing's identity. Region Lord Tiger Che? Did the Rakshasa tribe's lowly dogs really marry a foreign region's divine king? Crimson Shadow Sky 9's expression was extremely ugly. He struggled internally, hesitating. As for Crimson Shadow, he was already drenched in cold sweat. He cursed fiercely, "What Region Lord Tiger Che? I've never heard of him. Let me tell you, don't go overboard. Don't go overboard so that we can meet again in the future. This is the Yunyang region, you can't do whatever you want here." Ji Tianxing ignored Crimson Shadow and stared at Crimson Shadow Sky 9 coldly. My patience is limited. If you haven't made up your mind within 3 breaths, then don't hesitate. I'll send all of you home personally. Crimson Shadow Sky 9 and the Crimson Lunar Tribe's experts froze when they heard this. They were filled with resentment and despair. Crimson Shadow was stunned. He scratched his head subconsciously and mumbled, I have my own legs. Do I need you to send us home? Hearing this, many Crimson Lunar Tribe's experts looked at him with complicated gazes. Crimson Shadow Sky 9 felt powerless. He wanted to dig a hole and hide in it. Just like what the Rakshasa tribe had said, if he had not controlled the Crimson Lunar Tribe and protected Crimson Shadow, he would have been dead by now. With Crimson Shadow's intelligence and strength, he would have died a long time ago. 3. Chao Qingyu began the countdown again. Crimson Shadow Sky 9's heart was tormented. He was enduring great humiliation, anger, and unwillingness. However, he knew the consequences of offending this region lord. Therefore, when Chao Qingyu's countdown ended, he could only suppress his grief and make up his mind. Clang. The sound of metal clashing rang out. Crimson Shadow Sky 9 pulled out his divine sword and turned to slash at Crimson Shadow behind him. 2 muffled sounds rang out at the same time. Blood splattered everywhere. Both of Crimson Shadow's arms were severed. His arms flew into the sky and fell to the ground. His sword was so fast that Crimson Shadow could not react in time. After a while, Crimson Shadow felt the pain and let out a shrill cry. Father, why did you do this? How could you do this? Crimson Shadow was rolling on the ground in pain as he questioned his father with all his might. Crimson Shadow Sky 9 endured the humiliation and grief and chopped off his own arms with his sword. Thump. With 2 muffled sounds, his arms fell into the ruins. The divine sword automatically returned to its scabbard and hid in Crimson Shadow Sky 9's body. He slowly knelt down and kowtowed 3 times to the 5-colored auspicious cloud. Then, he said in a low and trembling voice, I failed to recognize Mount Tai and offended the region lord. I'm willing to accept my punishment. Crimson Shadow was still wailing. He was also scolded by him. In order to survive, Crimson Shadow endured the pain and humiliation and knelt down to apologize. Crimson Shadow Sky 9 and his son were the ones who cut off their arms and kowtowed to apologize. However, this was undoubtedly a great humiliation that tormented everyone in the Crimson Moon Clan. More than 300 Crimson Moon Clan members were filled with grief and humiliation. They lowered their heads to mourn. Ji Tianxing glanced at them indifferently and said, Scram! Crimson Shadow Sky 9 bowed to express his gratitude and then left with the Crimson Moon Clan members. Whoosh! Whoosh! The Crimson Moon Clan members were silent and left the Luosha cave as fast as they could. Everyone from the Rakshasa tribe who had witnessed the entire process felt exhilarated and exhilarated. Chapter 33:30. Haha! The bastards of the Crimson Moon Clan have such a day. Territorial Lord Hu Che has avenged us. It's so satisfying to see the Crimson Shadow Clan's 9 sons. Back then, the Crimson Moon Clan killed nearly 10,000 of our people. How vicious and cruel were they? The humiliation they suffered today is just a little interest. It's not revenge. We have a marriage alliance with Territorial Lord Hu Che. Our clan will definitely rise again in the future. Revenge against the Crimson Moon Clan is just around the corner. After this battle, the Crimson Moon Clan's vitality has been greatly damaged. Those powerhouses will need at least 20 years to recover. The protectors, elders, and powerhouses of the Rakshasa clan were all discussing excitedly. Their spirits were high. As a result, their impression of Ji Tianxing became even more intimate. They even regarded Ji Tianxing as the son-in-law of the Rakshasa clan and a powerful backer in the future. However, Ji Tianxing had no intention of staying. Chao Qingyu waved his hand and cast a spell, shooting out rays of divine light and breaking the seal of the Rakshasa cave in a few moves. Swoosh! A 5-colored screen of light appeared in the sky, and a wide door opened. The five-colored auspicious cloud passed through the gap and disappeared in the sky, leaving the Rakshasa cave. The Rakshasa clan leader, the high priest, the great protector, and the others were stunned for a moment and then hurriedly chased out. Territorial Lord, wait. After flying out of the Rakshasa cave, everyone flew into the sky and chased after the five-colored auspicious cloud. The five-colored auspicious cloud stopped. Ji Tianxing, Chao Qingyu, and Lin Shui all turned to look at everyone. What's the matter? Chao Qingyu asked with a displeased expression. The Rakshasa clan leader and the others came closer and hurriedly bowed and explained, Territorial Lord, please don't misunderstand. You helped us out just now and taught those bastards of the Crimson Moon clan a lesson. You've helped us so much. We haven't even had the chance to thank you. Okay, got it. Chao Qingyu nodded indifferently and was about to control the five-colored auspicious cloud to leave. The Rakshasa clan leader and the others hurriedly bowed and thanked him. At this time, Lin Shui suddenly said to Ji Tianxing and Chao Qingyu telepathically, Are we leaving just like that? What about third elder Luoxia? Are we going to let him go just like that? My parents' corpses have been ground to dust by him. I can't let this go. Only then did Ji Tianxing remember that he had indeed neglected this matter. Meng Yu has already paid the appropriate price, and the main culprit, Luoxia, is still alive. It Luoxia, it Luos, Chao Qingyu said. Chao Qingyu thought for a moment and reminded him, Young master, these guys are deeply grateful to us. If you directly kill Luoxia, wouldn't it be a little? Ji Tianxing revealed a playful smile and said, I naturally won't kill Luoxia in front of them. That would be letting him off too easily. Then he looked down at the Rakshasa clan leader, high priest, and the others and said, I know that you guys will be worried if I bring the Saintess out to play like this. The high priest, protector, and the others hurriedly waved and shook their heads, denying it. Don't misunderstand, Territorial Lord. We definitely don't have such thoughts. Do you know how honorable and transcendent the Region Lord is? Why would we doubt your character? We believe in your words very much. Only the Rakshasa clan leader did not express her opinion. After all, Ji Tianxing spoke her mind. Ji Tianxing raised his hand to signal for everyone to be quiet. He said calmly, You don't have to explain. I know what I'm doing. To make you feel at ease, I can choose an elder to follow. After he finished speaking, he swept his gaze across the elders, as if he was sizing them up and considering them. The few elders were wild with joy and excitement. They wanted to seize this opportunity to get close to a divine king powerhouse. Ji Tianxing looked around. Finally, his gaze landed on Luoxia. This elder is strong and has an extraordinary bearing. He'll be the one. Luoxia was overwhelmed by the favor. He was so excited that he thought to himself, Heavens! Is my luck really turning for the better? Am I going to achieve meteoric success? Not only did I make a great contribution, but I also got the clan leader's reward. Even this region Lord Hutch also sees me in a new light. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. As long as I win the favor of Region Lord Hutch, why would I worry about not having a lucky chance? Under the envious gazes of the few elders, Luoxia nodded his head repeatedly and agreed. He said flatteringly, Many thanks for Territorial Lord's great favor. This is Junior's honor. The Rakshasa clan leader's expression and gaze also clearly eased up a lot. She felt more at ease in her heart. Following that, Luoxia flew towards the five-colored auspicious cloud under everyone's gaze. Landing on the five-colored auspicious cloud, he hurriedly bowed to Ji Tianxing and said carefully, My lord, with your identity and status, how can you not have a solemn and dignified guard of honor when you go out for a trip? Furthermore, for you and Holy Maiden to have fun, you still need a group of guards and attendants. This way, it'll be more convenient. Luoxia's meaning was very clear. He wanted to bring more people to follow Ji Tianxing. The Rakshasa clan leader slightly nodded with a touch of relief in his eyes. He was very satisfied with Luoxia's performance. Ji Tianxing also guessed Luoxia's intention, so he nodded and said, That's true. Then you arrange it. Luoxia was even more excited and quickly said, Thank you for your trust, Territorial Lord. It just so happens that I have a group of loyal and sensible guards. I'll let them follow you and Holy Maiden along the way and serve you and Holy Maiden well." After that, he sent a message to the commanders and captains of the imperial army. After a while, 4 divine emperors in golden armor and more than 30 in silver armor quickly arrived on the 5-colored auspicious cloud. These commanders and captains of the imperial army all knelt on one knee to show their loyalty to Ji Tianxing and the other 2. Ji Tianxing nodded indifferently, indicating that he agreed to let them follow. This matter was settled. Luo Xie and the Rakshasa clan leader were full of joy. The 5-colored auspicious cloud turned around and was about to leave the Rakshasa cave under everyone's cheers. However, no one had expected. At this moment, a huge crack suddenly appeared in the sky above everyone's heads. Kaboom! 2 clusters of dazzling divine light crawled out of the 1,000-mile-long space crack and fell down like shooting stars. Moreover, an extremely powerful invisible divine power that could suppress heaven and earth came crashing down from the sky. A deep and dignified middle-aged man's voice rang in everyone's ears. "Where is the Rakshasa clan leader? The territorial lord has arrived. Kneel and greet him." This majestic voice reverberated endlessly between heaven and earth, causing the earth to tremble. Everyone's expression changed when they heard the words. The Rakshasa tribe leader, the high priest, and the others were stunned for a moment before they exclaimed in surprise. "The territorial lord has arrived? Is territorial lord Yunyang here? Oh my god! Why is territorial lord Yunyang here at this time? We're doomed. How can we explain territorial lord Yunyang's arrival?" Chapter 33-31. Initially, the matter had been settled. With Luo Xie leading over 30 divine lords to follow Ji Tianxing and Lin Shui, it was a safe bet. The Rakshasa leader, high priest, and others had also planned to prepare for the marriage in 3 days' time. However, no one had expected region leader Yunyang to appear out of nowhere. Even though his arrival was very coincidental, and it was also unexpected by everyone. However, the Rakshasa leader, high priest, and others let it go after giving it some thought. After all, they had already contacted region leader Yunyang. Region leader Yunyang had also replied, clearly stating that he would come to the Rakshasa cave to see the new saint with his own eyes. Calculating the time, he should be here today. However, the current situation was rather awkward. The entire place was silent. After being stunned for a moment, the Rakshasa leader came back to his senses and hurriedly led the high priest and others to welcome him. The people of the Rakshasa tribe welcomed the region leader's arrival. Everyone bowed respectfully and shouted in unison. As their voices reverberated in the sky, the 2 balls of divine light landed on top of everyone's heads and gradually dissipated. 2 tall and muscular silhouettes appeared in front of everyone. The person in the lead was a young man with a handsome appearance and a thin body. This person wore a white divine robe with a purple cloak and a luxurious crown on his head. His long, fiery red hair fell to his shoulders and danced in the wind, looking carefree and unruly. To most of the god tribe's ladies, this handsome red-haired youth was irresistibly attractive. After all, he was a powerful middle divine king and also the honorable region leader Yunyang. Standing behind territory lord Yunyang was a middle-aged man with a muscular physique. This person's build was like an iron tower, his skin as dark as an old bear's. His face was resolute and dignified, his eyes as large as bronze bells emitting an aura of authority. Although he was also an honorable divine king expert, he was a middle divine king. However, he was a lower deity king, the guard and assistant of region lord Yunyang. His status was basically on par with Chao Qingyu. However, the situation was slightly different. After all, Ji Tianxing, the region leader Tiger Che, was a fake. All the top forces in the Cloud Yang region knew that this middle-aged divine king was called Divine King Lingfeng. Usually, territory lord Yunyang would be cultivating in seclusion to comprehend the divine Tao. Cloud Yang region's various affairs were basically handed over to Soaring Wind Divine King to manage. This person was Governor Yunyang's absolute confidant, his presence akin to a right-hand man. When the Rakshasa people were done with their greetings, Territorial Lord Yunyang nodded slightly and said calmly, "You may rise." After receiving permission, the Rakshasa people stood up one after another. Territory Lord Yunyang stared at the Rakshasa leader and asked in a playful tone, "Has the ceremony to confer the title of Saintess ended? Why is Luocha Cave still so lively?" The Rakshasa clan leader did not dare to hide anything. He quickly replied, reporting to the territorial lord, "You've come at the right time. The conferring ceremony has just ended." Region leader Yunyang raised an eyebrow and said with a smile, "If so, then bring me into Rakshasa Cave and summon the new saint here. Let me take a good look at her." The Rakshasa leader looked troubled as he glanced at Ji Tianxing and Lin Shui, hesitant. The high priest was quick-witted and quickly came to the rescue, saying, "Please be patient, territorial lord. You've just arrived at Rakshasa Cave and haven't rested yet. How about this? We'll bring you into Rakshasa Cave and serve you well. Once we've done our duty as hosts, we'll summon the saintess for an audience." Before the high priest could finish, Soaring Wind Divine King who was behind Yunyang frowned and hollered sternly, "How dare you? How precious is the territorial lord's time? I've asked you to summon the saintess for an audience. What are you waiting for? How can you bear the responsibility if you delay the territorial lord's official business?" As he spoke, Soaring Wind Divine King released an invisible divine aura that enveloped the Rakshasa leader and the rest. The group was suppressed by the invisible divine aura, their bodies trembling as fear filled them. Of course, while they were fearful, they were also enraged and humiliated. They had long known that territorial Lord Yunyang was very arrogant and did not take the Rakshasa tribe seriously. However, they had not expected Soaring Wind Divine King to be so arrogant and overbearing, humiliating the Rakshasa tribe without restraint. In comparison, territorial Lord Hutch seemed to be gentler. Seeing the Rakshasa leader and the rest remaining silent, territorial Lord Yunyang frowned and asked coldly, "What? Are you trying to stall for time with this king? Don't forget, it was you who came to me, begging me to take the saintess as my concubine. Now that I've come personally, you're trying to stall for time in a secretive manner? Has this king not fought for too long that you've all forgotten what fear is?" Territorial Lord Yunyang's attitude was even more aggressive and frightening than Soaring Wind Divine King's. Everyone knew that the Rakshasa tribe would be doomed once he attacked in a rage. The high priest, guardian, and the rest were worried and could not help looking at Ji Tianxing and Lin Shui. The Rakshasa leader finally made his decision after a moment of hesitation. He bowed to Territorial Lord Yunyang and laid his cards on the table. "Lord Territorial Lord, it's not that we want to stall for time, it's just that the new saintess, Lin Shui, is not in the Rakshasa cave. She's on the rainbow auspicious cloud beside you." Just now, when the saintess coronation ceremony ended, Lord Hutch barged into the Rakshasa cave and said that he fell in love with the saintess at first sight and wanted to marry her. Before the Rakshasa leader could finish, Territorial Lord Yunyang and Soaring Wind Divine King's expressions changed. Both of them turned to look at the rainbow auspicious cloud at the same time, their gazes landing on Ji Tianxing and Lin Shui. "This is the Rakshasa tribe's newly crowned saintess? She's quite pretty indeed." Territorial Lord Yunyang studied Lin Shui from head to toe and nodded in satisfaction. Then his gaze landed on Ji Tianxing. As he did so, he could not help muttering, "Territorial Lord Hutch? This title is very unfamiliar. There are almost 100 territorial lords on this continent. I know at least 80% of them, but I've never heard of Hutch territory." Both Territorial Lord Yunyang and Soaring Wind Divine King released their deific consciousness to check on Ji Tianxing and Chao Qingyu's cultivation base. Chao Qingyu's cultivation base was clear at a glance. He was a third-degree lower Divine King, his ability on par with Soaring Wind Divine King. However, Ji Tianxing's cultivation base was a blur. It could not be discerned at all. Of course, he possessed the aura that belonged to a Divine King expert. Territorial Lord Yunyang was enraged, but he suppressed his anger and did not flare up for the time being. After studying Ji Tianxing a few times, he asked in a low voice, "Territorial Lord Hutch? Let me introduce myself. I'm Jing Feihong, the current territorial lord of Yunyang territory. Ji Tianxing looked at him expressionlessly and asked, "What do you want?" Jing Feihong grinned coldly and said in a playful tone, "Territorial Lord Hutch, I don't care whether your identity is real or fake, nor do I care where you come from. You're in my territory now, but you've snatched away my wife and concubine that I've already reserved. Aren't you being too arrogant and domineering by doing so? Are you humiliating me?" Chapter 33-32. In everyone's eyes, Ji Tianxing and Jing Feihong were both the lords of a region. But the two people's way of doing things and auras were entirely different. Ji Tianxing was like the vast starry sky, very mysterious, boundless, and unfathomable. While Jing Feihong was like a sharp sword that supported heaven and earth, piercing the firmament, showing off his sharp edge, overbearing and overbearing. Just 2 sentences caused the atmosphere to freeze, swords drawn and bows bent. He did not conceal his anger and killing intent in the slightest, staring at Ji Tianxing with a fierce gaze, wanting to make a move at a word of disagreement. But everyone could understand too. After all, this place was Jing Feihong's territory. It was also his marriage alliance with the Rakshasa clan first. It was indeed Ji Tianxing who interfered, forcefully bringing away holy daughter Lin Shui. Ji Tianxing looked at Jing Feihong with an indifferent expression and said in a relaxed tone, "Why does this king need to explain to you when doing things? If you think that this king is humiliating you, then so be it." Immediately, the atmosphere in the field became tense to the extreme. Jing Feihong and Towering Wind Divine King's expressions also became extremely cold, their gazes very fierce. Unparalleled fury and killing intent erupted from the two people's bodies, engulfing a radius of 10,000 miles. "Brat, you're courting death here." Jing Feihong gave an angry cry, raising both fists brazenly, erupting with 100% power, smashing fiercely towards Ji Tianxing. Divine Elephant Heaven Shaking Fist. Blinding divine light gushed out from Jing Feihong's 2 fists, condensing into 2 fist lights that were as large as mountains, smashing fiercely towards the 5-colored auspicious cloud. Inside the dazzling 5-colored fist lights contained 200 kinds of divine Dao laws, erupting with a divine power undulation that could obliterate heaven and earth. Jing Feihong was a middle-level divine king of the 5th degree realm, grasping 410 kinds of divine Dao laws. But he could at most utilize half of his divine Dao laws in an actual battle. This was also a normal situation. Among 1,000 divine king powerhouses, 999 people were like this. Him going all out the moment he made his move also harbored sinister intentions. He wanted to catch Ji Tianxing unprepared, injuring Ji Tianxing with lightning-quick means. In this way, not only could he intimidate everyone and establish his prestige, he could also end the battle quickly and save energy. Although his idea was good, he had underestimated Ji Tianxing's strength and methods. Ji Tianxing was able to determine his nature in just a short moment of contact and a short exchange of words. Therefore, he expected that he would go all out from the get-go. Therefore, Ji Tianxing was already prepared. Sword of Destruction. Ji Tianxing also snorted coldly as he formed a sword seal with both hands. The battle between Divine King experts isn't something we can participate in. We don't even have the right to watch. The clan leader, the Grand Priest, and the others exclaimed and discussed. They hurriedly activated the Rakshasa Cave's formation and hid back inside. On the ruined battlefield, only Ji Tianxing, Chao Qingyu, Lin Shui, Jing Feihong, and Divine King Lingfeng were left. The 5 of them were divided into 2 groups and stood 1,000 miles apart in the sky, facing each other with murderous intent. Jing Feihong glared at Ji Tianxing and sneered coldly, "Ha! You can actually block this king's fatal blow. You're quite capable indeed. Now, this king believes that you're definitely qualified to be a territorial lord. No wonder you're so arrogant, daring to snatch this king's chosen wife and concubine." Ji Tianxing frowned and said contemptuously, "Yunyang region's lord, the so-called peerless genius that only appears once every 10,000 years, is nothing more than this. You're not worthy of Lin Shui with this little ability of yours. Ha! Jing Feihong laughed from extreme anger. His expression was cold as he said in a venomous tone, "Child, if you want to enrage this king, congratulations on your success. This king doesn't care about the Rakshasa tribe's saint and doesn't care about her life or death. However, this king has a marriage alliance with the Rakshasa tribe and wants to take her as my concubine. You dare to snatch her from me and humiliate me so brazenly. This king will not rest until you're dead, unless you keep the saint and apologize to this king. Otherwise, don't even think about leaving Yunyang region alive today." Ji Tianxing raised his eyebrows and sneered as he said in a contemptuous tone, "This was originally a small matter and this king didn't want to kill you. However, since you're so insistent on seeking death, this king can only fulfill your wish." Of course, there was still something in his heart that he did not say out loud. "This is my first battle after recovering the realm of Divine King and it's against an intermediate Divine King. I'll use this fellow as a whetstone. I'll test my true combat power and see how far it has come. I'll also see how much of the 3,000 Dao I've mastered back then I can perform now." Chapter 33-33. Ha! What shameless boasting! Jing Feihong glared at Ji Tianxing and laughed contemptuously. "You dare to open a dye house just because I gave you some face? You think too highly of yourself." Ji Tianxing couldn't be bothered to bicker with him. He took out the sword of burial of heaven and shouted coldly, "Cut the crap and die." As soon as he finished speaking, Ji Tianxing swung the Heaven Barrier sword and unleashed an overwhelming five-colored sword radiance toward Jing Feihong. The sharp sword energy tore through the sky and space and locked onto Jing Feihong's aura. He had nowhere to run. However, he didn't panic. He quickly took out a king-grade divine saber and slashed it with overbearing might. Heaven-splitting saber. Kaboom! Amidst a deafening explosion, the 1,000-meter-long saber light shattered the sword light that filled the sky. Then, the saber light collapsed and exploded. However, the power of the two was too violent. While the divine saber and the sword of burial of heaven collided with each other and exploded with a deafening sound. Clang! The sound of metal clashing spread for thousands of miles. It pierced through metal and cracked stone. Cracks appeared in the sky. Ji Tianxing was sent flying backward on the spot, falling into the sky 100 miles away. The Heaven Barrier sword in his hand was also trembling incessantly, letting out a series of low wails. Obviously, the sword of burial of heaven and the king-grade divine saber clashed and suffered a great loss, although the blade didn't seem to be damaged. However, if they collided a few more times, the sword of burial of heaven would most likely crack and break. After all, it was only a king-grade divine weapon and not a king-grade divine weapon. There was a fundamental difference between the two. Ha! What a joke! Jing Feihong held the divine saber and looked at Ji Tianxing, who was sent flying hundreds of miles away. He looked up to the sky and laughed. The region Lord Tiger Che doesn't even have a king-grade divine artifact, and he's still using a monarch-grade divine sword? You, the domain lord, are really poor to the extreme. How pitiful! When the two of them clashed just now, in terms of the power of their divine abilities and their own combat strength, they were evenly matched. However, when the two divine weapons clashed, it was obvious who was superior. Ji Tianxing suffered a great loss. This made Ji Tianxing full of resentment, but there was nothing he could do. He had just broken through to the Divine King realm, so he didn't have time to forge the sword of burial of heaven. What's more, he still lacked several refining materials to upgrade the burial of heaven to the king grade. Right now, there was no way to make up for this shortcoming. Ji Tianxing could only execute an even more powerful divine ability and erupt with even more strength. Only then would he have a chance to defeat Jing Feihong. Chao Qingyu was filled with worry and anxiety when he saw this. Other than his natal divine artifact, he had a few king-grade divine artifacts. He originally wanted to take out a king-grade divine sword and lend it to Ji Tianxing to use. but powerful enemies were lying in wait. If he took out a king-grade divine sword to Ji Tianxing now, it would definitely make Jing Feihong despise and mock him even more. Seeing as Jing Feihong brandished his divine saber once more, charging towards Ji Tianxing aggressively, Chao Qingyu took out the Azure Jade divine sword without hesitation and intercepted Jing Feihong from the side. However, the Towering Wind Divine King, who was waiting for the opportunity long ago, seized the opportunity to launch a sneak attack, stabbing straight for Chao Qingyu's vitals. Your opponent is this king. Hand over your life. Towering Wind Divine King roared angrily, both hands gripping a gilded divine spear, rumbling over like a meteor from beyond the heavens. If Chao Qingyu insisted on helping Ji Tianxing, he was bound to suffer heavy injuries himself. Helpless, he could only put away his divine sword and turn around to block Towering Wind Divine King's assault. Bang, bang, bang. The dazzling sword light and spear light collided, erupting with a deafening explosion, bursting forth with a world-destroying shock wave. Over 100 types of divine Dao law powers also transformed into a myriad of magnificent scenes, drowning out this part of heaven and earth. Towering Wind Divine King and Chao Qingyu were evenly matched, neither gaining the upper hand. After a fierce collision, the two were blasted back 100 miles, panting heavily. However, the two immediately suppressed their surging divine power and executed even more exquisite divine abilities, starting a fight high up in the sky. Boom, boom, boom. The two figures constantly flickered in the sky, shuttling back and forth as fast as lightning, dodging and evading. After exchanging a few moves, the two fought with all their might, only wanting to kill each other with the fastest speed and end the battle. With such thoughts in mind, the two fought with unparalleled ferocity. Their figures constantly moved into the distance, no longer caring about Ji Tianxing and Jing Feihong. At the same time, Ji Tianxing and Jing Feihong were also entangled endlessly, starting a fierce battle. The two figures constantly collided and separated, flashing back and forth in the sky, their trajectories difficult to capture. Both of them executed divine abilities that could destroy heaven and earth, releasing 5-colored divine light, saber light and sword light that blotted out the sky. All kinds of divine abilities and the power of laws violently collided in heaven and earth, erupting with earth-shattering rumbles. In a short while, the ground within a radius of 30,000 miles was destroyed into ruins. The sky was also shattered into pieces. Moreover, as time passed, the two of them kept moving the battlefield, getting further and further away from the entrance of Rakshasa Cave. After an hour, the two of them had already traveled 100,000 miles, raising this part of heaven and earth into ruins. As far as the eye could see, the majestic mountains and valleys, the lush forests and grasslands had all disappeared. The entire area was in ruins, and there were deep pits and ravines all over the place. Smoke and dust filled the air, and there were many cracks and pits in the sky that were slowly healing. However, Ji Tianxing and Jing Feihong still had not decided a victor and were still evenly matched. Both of them had suffered some minor injuries, their long hair was scattered, their white robes were stained with blood, and their bodies were drenched in sweat. However, with their abilities, they would not be exhausted even if they fought for another 2 days and 2 nights. Of course, the most anxious person in the situation was Jing Feihong. He was the region Lord Yunyang, and this was his territory. Moreover, he had an even greater advantage with the help of his divine weapon. Logically speaking, he should have gained the upper hand long ago and suppressed Ji Tianxing in all aspects. However, Ji Tianxing's abilities and methods were far beyond his expectations, and the more he fought, the more fearful he became. Within an hour, Ji Tianxing had executed tens of thousands of divine abilities and skills, and there were very few repetitions. All sorts of divine abilities, secret techniques, and ultimate sword Dao skills were displayed to the acme of perfection and transcendence, causing one to gasp in amazement. Even Jing Feihong himself could not help but admit this fact. It's fortunate that I have an emperor-level divine weapon, so I can fight him to a draw. If he had an emperor-level divine weapon as well, I would have been defeated long ago with his abilities and methods. Jing Feihong grew more fearful as he fought, his confidence in winning gradually crumbling. He even had the thought of ending the battle as soon as possible, unwilling to be entangled any longer. On the other side, Chao Qingyu and Lingfeng Divine King's battle had also reached its most intense moment, and it was hard to tell who was the victor. Both of them were lower divine kings of the third-degree realm, and both of them had a strong foundation and accumulation. Their battle experience was rich, and their understanding of various divine abilities and principles was quite profound. Although both of them had suffered light injuries and looked rather pathetic, both of them knew that even if they fought for 3 days and 3 nights, until they were exhausted, they could not kill each other. Chapter 33-34. Even though Ji Tianxing and Jing Feihong, as well as Chao Qingyu and Divine King Lingfeng, were still fighting fiercely. However, the battle between the 4 divine kings had already fallen into a stalemate. Within a short period of time, if nothing unexpected happened, it was basically impossible to determine the victor. Fortunately, Chao Qingyu recalled Lin Shui into the divine worship before the battle began. The Rakshasa tribe leader, high priest, and the rest also hid in Rakshasa cave in time. The battle between the 4 divine kings destroyed hundreds of thousands of miles of heaven and earth, but it did not harm the innocent. After Ji Tianxing and Jing Feihong exchanged a few more blows, he frowned and thought to himself, "It's not a solution to continue like this. Jing Feihong has the advantage of a king-level divine weapon. It's very difficult for me to kill him. Even if I use my most powerful ultimate skill, I can only injure him, I can't even capture him. Since that's the case, I can only use Divine King Lingfeng as a breakthrough point." After making up his mind, Ji Tianxing used his deific consciousness to send a message to Chao Qingyu, who was 30,000 miles away. "Don't fight alone anymore. Inform Miss Lan, but to find a chance to ambush Divine King Lingfeng." Chao Qingyu was fighting fiercely with Divine King Lingfeng, focusing on executing his divine abilities and ultimate skills. When he suddenly heard Ji Tianxing's voice transmission, he immediately understood Ji Tianxing's intention. He hurriedly replied, "Understood." Lan had been in seclusion in the Emerald Divine Worship and did not know the situation outside. Chao Qingyu was worried that she would be injured by Divine King Lingfeng if she participated in the battle rashly due to her weak ability, so he did not inform her. However, it was different now. Ji Tianxing's voice transmission reminded him. Obviously, there was a plan to be carried out, so he had to cooperate fully. "Lan, young Master Tianxing and I have encountered strong enemies now. 2 Divine King experts, one is Region Ruler Tianxing, the other is his assistant." Chao Qingyu contacted Lan in the Divine Worship while fighting Divine King Lingfeng. Lan was cultivating in seclusion in the secret room. When she heard the voice transmission, she immediately ended her cultivation. She quickly entered a combat-ready state, and her essence, energy, and spirit reached their peak. She transmitted her voice and asked, "Green Jade, how do I need to cooperate with you?" Chao Qingyu answered without hesitation, "High Wind God King is not on guard against me and is going all out to deal with me. I will use my trump card and ultimate skill to create pressure for God King High Wind. You take the opportunity to sneak attack him. As long as we can injure him, we will have a chance to win." Lan understood what he meant and hurriedly agreed via voice transmission. Hence, after Chao Qingyu exchanged a few moves with Divine King High Wind, he suddenly used his trump card. Furious Blood Clear Sky. Chao Qingyu roared angrily. His entire body was burning with bloody flames, and his divine power was boiling. His strength exploded to the extreme, and his battle prowess reached 120%. Moreover, he held the Azure Jade Divine Sword with both hands. His body expanded to a height of 30 meters as he brazenly slashed out with his strongest attack. Sky-rending strike. Following his furious roar, the Azure Jade Divine Sword burst forth with boundless divine light, condensing into a resplendent giant sword that was 3 kilometers long. The giant sword locked onto God King High Wind's aura. It contained over 80 types of divine Tao laws and released a power that could destroy everything as it slashed at God King High Wind. The sky shattered, and a ravine that was 50 kilometers long opened up. Before the giant sword arrived, God King High Wind felt as if his entire body was pricked by needles. His face was distorted, and his eyes became incomparably grave. "Damn it! Are you crazy, you bastard? Such a move will harm you even if you kill 1,000 enemies. Do you want to perish together with me?" God King High Wind glared as he roared with murderous intent. Of course. He knew that he could not dodge the sword and could only use his strongest strength to block it. Once he blocked the sword, Chao Qingyu's strength would be greatly depleted, and he would have a chance to counterattack. Myriad Technique Divine Seal. At the critical moment, God King High Wind also erupted with all his strength. He did not hesitate to consume 500 years of his lifespan to push his cultivation to the limit. He formed a divine seal with both hands and rapidly condensed tens of thousands of Dharma seals, forming a 5-colored barrier around him. The barrier formed by the myriad Dao Dharma seals was like a giant light screen, protecting him firmly. The instant the barrier formed, the giant sword that could split heaven and earth slashed down. Boom! Crack! Following an earth-shattering explosion, a huge crack was opened up on the barrier on the spot. The unparalleled berserk impact tore the barrier apart, blasting out tens of thousands of fragments. Even though the giant sword also cracked open with cracks, and its strength was rapidly weakening. But the 5-colored barrier collapsed. God King High Wind was sent flying backward by the giant sword, vomiting blood as he landed 50 kilometers away. The God King High Wind smashed into the ruins, giving off a dull thud as dust filled the air. Pooerk! He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. His complexion was pale as paper, and his body was also trembling. The divine power in his body was flowing wildly, and his aura was also in chaos. Lowering his head to look at his chest, he saw a hideous indentation that was bleeding out continuously. "Damn bastard! This king is going to kill you and tear your corpse into 1,000 pieces." God King High Wind cursed furiously. He crawled up from the ground and hurriedly circulated his power to suppress his injuries. His eyes glared angrily at Chao Qingyu 50 kilometers away, unable to restrain his anger. Surging killing intent burst forth from his entire body. However, he did not know at all. Just as the 5-colored barrier was blasted apart and he was sent flying backward, Lan'er had already left the Azure Jade Divine Worship. She maintained a state of invisibility and concealed her aura. She quietly flew across the sky and launched an ambush at God King High Wind. If it were normal times, with her first-level Divine King Realm strength, it was absolutely impossible for her to ambush God King High Wind. When she was within 10 kilometers of God King High Wind and released her killing intent, God King High Wind could already detect it. And now, the commotion caused by Chao Qingyu and God King High Wind's fight was too great. It could be said to shake the 9 firmaments. God King High Wind was injured by Chao Qingyu again, flying backward while vomiting blood. He was unable to restrain his anger, his killing intent soaring. His vigilance naturally dropped. Furthermore, his attention was all on Chao Qingyu and did not guard against someone ambushing him at all. This way, Lan'er's sneak attack succeeding was also an inevitable outcome. 100 meters behind God King High Wind, space distorted and undulated. Lan'er appeared out of thin air. She gripped a short sword tightly with both hands and erupted with the fastest speed, tearing across the sky like a bolt of lightning. God King High Wind had just realized that danger was approaching and had yet to react, nor did he have time to dodge. Boom! It was only to hear a muffled explosion. The lightning that Lan'er transformed into slammed viciously into God King High Wind's back with the swiftest and most berserk stance. That indestructible short sword also stabbed viciously into God King High Wind's back. The unparalleled berserk impact force sent him flying out, slamming into the ruins 10,000 feet away. He rolled several times in the ruins before stopping, blood spewing out of his nose and mouth. Pooerk! The short sword was still stuck in his body. The blade pierced through his chest, the sword tip emerging from his chest. His heart was pierced, fresh blood gushing out uncontrollably. The heart-wrenching pain made him roar at the sky, letting out a shrill wail. You damn slut. Chapter 33-35. The moment he was stabbed by the dagger, Divine King Lingfeng noticed Lan. He was shocked and furious at the same time, his hatred overflowing to the heavens. A woman at the first level of the Divine King realm had severely injured him and almost destroyed his divine body? This was a great humiliation. Before this, he had never thought that such a thing would happen. Although he could not accept this fact. However, he guessed the truth of the matter after thinking about it. That divine tribe girl must be Chao Qingyu's companion. She had been hiding in the dark, waiting for him to fight Chao Qingyu to reach the most critical moment before attacking and injuring him severely. That must be it. If he had not been restrained by Chao Qingyu and had let his guard down after fighting Chao Qingyu for so long, how could Lan have succeeded? Now, his enemies had become two divine kings. In addition, he was severely injured, his combat power greatly reduced. He was in a perilous situation. Therefore, Divine King Lingfeng retreated hundreds of miles away, glaring angrily at Chao Qingyu on his left and at Lan on his right. You shameless couple, you're really sinister and despicable. Lan's expression was cold as she silently summoned the dagger to fly out of Divine King Lingfeng's body and back to her. Once the dagger was pulled out, a bloody hole appeared on Divine King Lingfeng's back. He spat out a mouthful of blood as his body trembled again. Chao Qingyu looked at Divine King Lingfeng indifferently and said in a low voice, "How can there be so many rules and morals in a battlefield? You can only blame yourself for underestimating your enemy." Divine King Lingfeng was speechless, trembling with anger as his eyes glinted coldly. Despicable beasts, just you wait. If he continued to fight, it would only become more dangerous and his injuries would worsen. The only thing he could do now was to retreat and rendezvous with Region Lord Yunyang. Making up his mind, Divine King Lingfeng was about to turn and flee. However, the scene that made him even more shocked and incredulous appeared. Just as he turned, he saw a white-robed, long-haired human youth standing 5 steps in front of him. He focused his gaze and noticed that the white-robed young man was handsome and mighty, so who else could it be but the Region Lord Hu Che? At this moment, Divine King Towering Wind was frightened out of his wits, chills running down his spine. There was only one thought in his mind. Damn it! Wasn't he fighting with the Domain Lord? How did he appear behind me? Could it be that he had already killed the Region Master, and now he wants to kill me? This is impossible. As this thought flashed through his mind, God King High Wind released his spiritual perception to investigate the situation 30,000 miles away. In the sky 30,000 miles away, there were still 2 figures fighting fiercely. One of the silhouettes was exceptionally familiar, his attacks ferocious. It was Yunyang Region Lord, Jing Feihong. As for the other white figure, it was a human youth who had been retreating and dodging. That was also Domain Lord Tiger Che. From the looks of it, Region Lord Tiger Cleave was no match for Jing Feihong. He was being beaten back again, and it was difficult for him to resist. Such a bizarre situation left Divine King Towering Wind stupefied on the spot. How could this be? Why were there 2 Region Lord Hutch? Who can tell me what's going on? Divine King Towering Wind's thoughts were instantly thrown into disarray. And at this time, Domain Lord Tiger Che, who was 5 steps away, had long raised the Sword of Burial of Heaven, stabbing over seemingly slowly but actually swiftly. Sword of Daytime. An icy cold low cry also emitted from his mouth. The Sword of Burial of Heaven that was pitch black like ink burst forth with boundless resplendent golden light, condensing into a pinprick the size of a needle, instantly piercing into Divine King Towering Wind's forehead. Swish! Following a soft sound, that pinprick of golden light that was condensed to the extreme pierced through Divine King Towering Wind's defense, piercing deeply into his head. In the next instant, that resplendent golden light suddenly erupted, like a golden mushroom cloud, exploding in the sky. Boom! An earth-shaking loud explosion erupted, reverberating throughout the universe. An apocalyptic shock wave spread out in all directions. However, under Ji Tianxing's precise control, the mushroom cloud only affected a radius of 100 miles, and no longer spread outwards. The result was without a doubt. Chao Qingyu and Lan Er were both unaffected, while Divine King Towering Wind's body exploded into smithereens on the spot, turning to ashes. Amidst the golden light that blotted out the sky and covered the sun, only 20 over pieces of colorful crystal fragments drifted down in a voluminous array. Ji Tianxing waved his hand and fired out several rays of golden light again, collecting all of the fragments into his bag. Looked like crystal fragments, but in reality, they were Divine King Towering Wind's divine spark fragments. On each piece of fragment, there were at least over a dozen law divine marks inscribed. An exalted third-degree realm divine king expert turned to ashes just like this, falling on the spot. Chao Qingyu and Lan Er witnessed it with their own eyes, both revealing looks of horror and disbelief. That's the pinnacle of divine Tao, a divine king that all deities look up to. He fell just like this? How could he die so easily? Sir Tianxing just broke through to Divine King Realm and annihilated Divine King Towering Wind so effortlessly? That was a third-degree realm lower Divine King. Furthermore, his strength foundation was very vigorous, not the slightest bit weaker than me. Just what kind of freak is Sir? How can he be terrifying to such an extent? Lan Er and Chao Qingyu's minds flashed past these thoughts at the same time. They were extremely horrified. Although before Ji Tianxing made his move, Divine King Towering Wind was already severely injured. But to a Divine King expert, heart injury and a substantial drop in strength would not have too big of an impact. A Divine King expert's recovery ability, the tenacity of life, was unbelievably powerful. But these were all useless in front of Ji Tianxing. Divine King Towering Wind still could not block one move from him. Horrifying. Monstrous. At the same time, the great battle 30,000 miles away also came to an abrupt end. That white-robed youth who looked exactly like Ji Tianxing retreated several hundred miles consecutively. After evading 50 over moves, he was finally cleaved into two halves by Jing Feihong's saber. Bang! Following a dull explosion, the white-robed youth exploded on the spot, splattering out hundreds of fragments. However, the fragments all over the sky all transformed into colorful divine lights, dissipating in the sky. No fresh blood splattered out, and there was also no miserable shriek. Jing Feihong was immediately stunned, holding the divine saber in a daze on the spot. Only all the way until the fragments all over the sky disappeared did he recover to his senses. Swoosh! He suddenly turned his head and released his divine sense to envelop Ji Tianxing, Chao Qingyu, and Lan Er, three people. After seeing the three people's location and situation clearly, he suddenly thought of something and immediately came to a realization. This king understands. It's a clone. This is his clone. That's right. Jing Feihong guessed correctly. The white-robed youth who was fighting with him earlier, constantly retreating and dodging, was not Ji Tianxing's true body. It was his clone. This was the trump card ultimate skill that he executed for the first time after recovering to the Divine King Realm, Absolute Shadow Clone. As early as many years ago, he could already execute the 10-directional Absolute Shadow's divine ability. This was a pinnacle assassination art. But at that time, he could only manifest a few phantoms to numb the enemy. Only after recovering to the Divine King Realm could he unleash the true power of the 10-directional Absolute Shadows, either turning into 100 phantoms, or splitting out a few clones. The appearance and aura of the clones were no different from the main body at all. Even a middle-ranked Divine King like Jing Feihong could not differentiate the real from the fake in a hurry too. Wonderful book house. Chapter 33-36. Presently, Ji Tianxing had just recovered to the Divine King Realm. He could only conjure up one clone, at most 9 phantoms. Given time, his strength realm and foundation would become even more robust. He could even conjure up even more clones and phantoms. Just like back then when he was a peak Divine King. Unleashing 10-directional Absolute Shadows at full power, he could conjure up 9 clones. Each clone had half of the main body strength. As for phantoms, he could even conjure up to 10,000, blotting out the skies and covering the earth with an astonishing commotion. His power alone was comparable to a magnificent army, sufficient to roam the galaxy unhindered. If he encountered a powerful opponent, he could even conjure up 9 clones, joining forces to besiege the opponent. It could be said to be invincible in the same realm. And now, it was Ji Tianxing's first battle after recovering to the Divine King realm. The first time he displayed absolute shadow clone, he obtained an unexpected effect. Not only did he deceive Jing Feihong, he even one-shot the towering Wind Divine King in one move. Under such circumstances, Jing Feihong was naturally terrified and filled with dread. After weighing the pros and cons for a moment, Jing Feihong very wisely chose to stop the battle. After all, Ji Tianxing's strength and methods were evenly matched with him. It was very hard to determine the victor. The towering Wind Divine King was already killed. He became a loner, while Ji Tianxing had 2 Divine Kings helping him. Continuing to fight, he was bound to fall into a passive state, and his injuries would become increasingly severe, all the way until he was defeated by Ji Tianxing. Although Jing Feihong was very confident and proud, he was absolutely not reckless and foolish. As the lord of a region, he knew how to size up the situation and grasp when to advance and retreat better than anyone else. "Brat, this king indeed underestimated you. I didn't expect that you even grasped this kind of divine ability, supreme skill. Our strength is evenly matched. Continuing to fight is also meaningless. Today's battle, consider it your win. But this king will remember this score and make you pay back double sooner or later." Jing Feihong glared at Ji Tianxing with a sharp gaze, shouting angrily with an icy cold tone. He already memorized Ji Tianxing's appearance and aura firmly and absolutely would not forget. When the time was right, he would definitely take revenge. After throwing down these few sentences, Jing Feihong was about to turn around and leave. However, Ji Tianxing revealed a playful smile and asked in a mocking tone, "What? Stop fighting just like that? Didn't you say that this prince thought too highly of himself and wanted to take this prince's life? This is the Yunyang territory, your territory. Don't you feel ashamed running away with your tail between your legs?" Once the news spreads, how are you going to rule the empires and intimidate the people of Yunyang region? Although these words did not contain a single vulgar word, it was even more heart-wrenching, completely humiliating Jing Feihong. He was filled with shame and indignation. His face was red and his lungs were about to explode. However, he knew very well that Ji Tianxing was deliberately provoking him so that he could continue to fight. Damned beast, what a vicious heart. Not only did he kill Ling Feng, he also wanted to provoke this prince to fight again. Then the 3 of them joined forces to kill me, wanting to kill me here. Damn it. These thoughts flashed through Jing Feihong's mind. He glared at Ji Tianxing with a venomous gaze before turning around and tearing the sky apart. Crack! A large spatial fissure was torn open in the sky as Jing Feihong stepped into it, his body glowing with white light. Even as he was about to leave, he did not forget to turn back to look at Ji Tianxing and hollered, "Child, this prince has not lost to you. It's just that you're cunning and sly, killing Ling Feng Divine King. Even if this prince leaves today, it won't affect this prince's reputation. This prince is still Region Lord Yunyang. Just you wait. The next time we meet, it will be the day of your death. Wash your neck and wait for your death." As soon as he finished speaking, he stepped into the spatial fissure without looking back and disappeared. Swoosh! The spatial fissure that was thousands of feet long was healing rapidly as well. The battle was over, and peace was restored between heaven and earth. Chao Qingyu and Lan flew to Ji Tianxing's side and looked up at the spatial fissure that was about to close. They asked in confusion, "Young master, why don't you go after Jing Feihong? Ling Feng Divine King has been killed by you. Jing Feihong is fighting alone. As long as we keep him, the 3 of us can definitely kill him if we join forces." Ji Tianxing slowly retracted the sword of burial of heaven, his gaze deep and his tone calm as he said, "Firstly, there's no deep hatred between us and Jing Feihong. There's no need to fight to the death. Secondly, Jing Feihong is an intermediate divine king after all, and he has the advantage of an imperial-level divine weapon. I don't have the confidence to defeat him now. Even if we force him to stay, the three of us can only severely injure him if we use all our strength. Once he's desperate and decides to escape, we still can't keep him. On the other hand, not only will we have to exhaust a lot of divine power, we'll also be severely injured. The loss outweighs the gain. After listening to his explanation, Chao Qingyu and Lan nodded to show that they understood. However, they did not know. In fact, there was a third reason that Ji Tianxing did not mention. Thirdly, Jing Feihong was Region Lord Yunyang after all. He had the right to meet the ruler of the boundless heaven continent, the Azura God Emperor. The Azura God Emperor was above the gods, looking down on the entire boundless heaven continent with the attitude of an absolute overlord. He would not personally manage this continent, nor would he show himself easily. This was because the hundreds of region lords were his most loyal subordinates, helping him manage this continent. However, once a region lord fell or was killed, it would definitely alarm the Azura God Emperor. If the Azura God Emperor pursued the matter, Ji Tianxing, Chao Qingyu and the rest would have nowhere to hide. Ji Tianxing had just recovered to the Divine King realm. His foundation was still shallow. He did not want to come into contact with the Azura God Emperor, much less be qualified to confront him head-on. Before he recovered to the pinnacle of the Divine King realm, he could only keep a low profile and endure as much as possible. This was the most crucial reason. In today's battle, I was able to successfully kill the Soaring Wind Divine King. Both of you have contributed greatly. Especially Lady Lan. Your performance was outstanding and worthy of praise. Ji Tianxing looked at Chao Qingyu and Lan, praising them with a smile. The husband and wife quickly bowed and replied humbly, "Young master is too kind. We were only following your instructions." Ji Tianxing nodded and said, "In the future, we'll encounter even more God King powerhouses, and we'll experience even more dangerous battles. This is dangerous and challenging for you, but it is also an opportunity and training. Only in actual battles of life and death can you quickly improve your cultivation base and abilities." Chao Qingyu and Lan nodded, indicating that they had learned something. "All right, we should go." Ji Tianxing raised his hand, indicating that Chao Qingyu could leave. Chao Qingyu quickly summoned the divine warship and the three of them flew into it. Soon, Chao Qingyu steered the divine warship and flew across the sky, continuing to fly south. 800,000 miles away from here, at the entrance of Rakshasa Cave. The Rakshasa clan leader, high priest, and the rest detected that it was calm outside and guessed that the Divine King battle had already ended. Only then did they fly out carefully. Several powerhouses flew across the sky, crossing the vast ruins, wanting to fly south. Along the way, they released their divine senses to investigate the surrounding situation, searching for Ji Tianxing and Jing Feihong's figures. They wanted to know the result of the battle. You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.